There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey, everybody. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means? It's time for the main show.
Yep.
Man, as soon as I turned the thing on, but I got a horrible ringing right in my ear. I don't know why that started.
I don't know.
If you hear any kind of like thunder and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's thunder.
Yeah, there's a storm outside.
like I said, it's Florida, y'all, and it's summertime. This happens pretty much every day. Sometimes earlier than this.
Florida
It's a little bit late.
monsoon season.
It is, yeah. So hopefully the power stays on. We haven't had too much trouble with the power going out. It flashed off other day, but that's kind of as worst as
Yeah,
we have.
reset everything.
Yeah, that kind of sucked. But yeah, this evening we have strawberry daiquiris.
Yeah, went down and made some.
I didn't realize that we still had all that strawberry daiquiri mix left. So I was like, well, shit, I thought we used all that up. This glass, it's too big for my tiny little hands, but...
Yeah, it looks white on camera. That's because it frosted itself. It's all blended ice.
Frosty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Did it with the immersion blender.
Delicious. Granther said it's raining like cow piss on a flat rock in Michigan. Yeah. I mean, here, it's not, I don't think it's raining yet. I don't hear anything, but I hear thunder. I hear thunder, though.
Trying to get in the mood for this show, man.
Well, why aren't you in the mood
I
for
don't
it?
know. Just kind of a weird day.
Is
They're
it?
rolling in. Isn't it a weird day?
I don't know.
I've been kind of pissed off because they're trying to verify my ID so I can talk to the VA. And the fucking AI is fucked up. I don't want to talk about that shit, man. Fuck, I had to send them photographs, all my documents, and then they send me links. No, you got to follow this link, and it's just no, man. Their shit doesn't work. And I'm at the very end. I got to call them and do a video call so they can see my face.
Yeah.
And then I get my my verified identification, online identification, so I can access my VA records and fill out prescriptions. That's all it is.
Oh, okay.
I've been fighting this shit for 3 days to become verified.
Well, you know, technology. I have similar problems
Taking pictures
with various technological things.
Had to take a picture of my fucking both sides of my driver's license, social security card.
I thought you were going to say both sides of your head.
No, and then
front of your head, back of your head.
No, and then
here's my ass. You want to see my ass too?
and then both sides of my birth certificate. Birth certificate. B-E-R-T. Birth certificate.
Your Bert and Ernie certificate?
Birth certificate. That's what they are in Mississippi. They have a birth certificate.
Your birth certificate.
Yeah.
What's up, Bert? Yeah, all right. Well, no, I know.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, dude, I deal with like technology and computers and shit like that like every day. So every day is like a huge headache of frustration. Well, plus like most of my shit, not so much this laptop. This is like pretty new, and this is the laptop that I pretty much only use for streaming. That's all I use this for. So I don't have too much trouble with this, but like everything else, like I have another computer that's for video editing, and then I have one that's for graphic design, and those are kind of old, and so a lot of the shit can't be updated, and it's just kind of like there's always kind of problems. So I understand.
Tammy says she canned 15 pints of salsa this morning. I got a whole
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy
I got a whole case of damn Bass canning jars. They're about that size. I think they're a little bit shorter. I don't know if that might be 2 pints. I don't know. I don't know how big they were. They were just big ones.
Salsa.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And I got a bunch of lids, bunch of sealing lids that it could go on jars like that. It's a real kind of common lid size. Got 2 of them, 2 boxes of those. So, you know, some of these jars I can turn into canning jars. Start canning stuff out of that garden. Jarring it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
What all is out there today? I haven't looked.
I got 5 eggplant getting ready to come in.
God,
Tomato.
more eggplant again?
Yeah. Eggplant just keeps rolling. A couple of green peppers, bell peppers.
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought we had planted
Tomatoes
some
are
of those.
shut down for a while. I think about another month or so they'll start coming back. Maybe 2 months. I got to check again. But the plants are good. They're just not yielding. They kind of go through a little cycle. And then, let me see. I got some potatoes coming.
Oh, okay.
Maybe another couple weeks. I'll check on them. Potatoes. And then the 2 banana trees, I had to give them a drink of water. They're not really looking that good. They look thirsty. We'll see.
You guys
I don't want my banana trees dying. I went out and bought 2 banana trees.
Because these are the actual banana trees.
These are ones that
not
actually
just
make...
not just the ornamental banana tree.
Yeah, they actually make bananas.
They actually make bananas.
But there won't be any bananas for
not like
year.
the sexless banana trees that just have pretty leaves.
Mm-hmm. And I got a lemon tree out there that I can bury, but that's after the season's over. And I'll bury that. It's got a bunch of lemons on it, but they're all green.
Well, generally citrus is a winter, is it not?
Yeah, it's not ready to plant, though. I think it said planted in winter.
That's what I'm saying. See, I thought, because I know, like, because I'm from
in...
Florida, and, like, oranges and grapefruits and shit like that, that's when you'd harvest that shit in, like, wintertime. Hugo says, the only reason I watched The Mummy 4 is because of the Terracotta Warriors. I mean, when you think about it, like, I kind of feel like everybody knows about the Terracotta Warriors, but, like, when you were looking at them, and, like, when I was doing research for the show, I'm like, this is really fucking amazing looking. I mean, it's a massive, massive complex.
Yeah.
And, I mean, a lot of people were involved. It was kind of like an assembly line thing, but it's, like, still, every single one of those warriors, like, looks a little bit different. Like, they all look individual.
Yeah,
and
they're probably after a dude. They probably represent an individual soldier.
Yeah, I mean, they had a bunch of different... I think we'll get into it a little bit later, but I think they had, like, about 10 different molds.
Yeah.
And then they would kind of, like, mix and match. And then, like, but after, they would make the face in the mold, like, from one of the 10 different molds. And then they would use, like, some clay to, like, make different little facial features so everybody would look different. So they actually were individual. But the bodies, like, the legs and stuff like that, those were mostly mass-produced. Although they're all different heights, though.
Yeah.
So... You know what I mean?
They're reproductions of the soldiers that were on duty at the time. They went down there, it was like taking a picture. You just sit there.
Well, I don't know about that because because it took like almost 40 years, like to build all of those and the thing like that, you know.
Well, they probably just did the faces at the last part, or you know what I mean? Or
maybe they did all the bodies first.
Or you signed a contract, you know. Do you agree that after death your soul will fucking come to this statue and stay on guard? Oh yes, I'll do it. Okay, then they fucking put your face on it. You know, kind of like a Scientologist and their fucking 10,000 year fucking contract. It's like that.
I kind of feel like, but
I guarantee you, they were using, these are the Chinese, man. They're not bullshitting. They had a system behind it.
I kind of feel like it probably would have been a thing like, hey, want your face on a terracotta warrior? You got to pay like this much money, and then we'll put your face on there. No, but I think that would be funny.
It'd be funny, but that's not how the Chinese thought, and that's not how militaries think. They were some kind of royal guard, and they were like elite soldiers, and it was probably a fucking great honor to be in that unit. And at some time in your service, and like you said, their service probably went on for 40 years, you know, across generations of people that were in that unit. You know what I mean? Like the 101st was fucking around for the 100-something years, you know. So probably just your best guys got selected to serve in that unit in the afterlife. You know, it's probably some kind of reward. And, you know, you said, yeah, I'll go. And then when it was come time to make a statue, they probably maybe drew you to see what you look like, and then when it came time to make the statue, they would just do it to specification. They were real organized, super organized. So that, you know, they probably just had his likeness kind of codified into what basic face, what basic mouth, what basic nose and eyes, and then they probably would just draw slight differences and go, yeah, that's fucking Wu-Tang, you know. Okay, fucking, so and then when it comes time to make his statue, they just went by the drawing and the order, place an order for it, you know, what chin, what nose.
And then by the time you made it, that dude was probably dead anyway. So
yeah.
So it's not like anybody would be like, hey, that doesn't look like him.
Yeah, it's possible. That by the time, but his was probably on record, his face and what it would look like and how to codify it into a code that they could reproduce on these statues. And it was probably just kind of a symbolic likeness. You know what I mean? Wasn't it?
Because I feel like it would have been, because, I kind of feel like for a long time, because I think as far as I know, there's how many have they unearthed now? Like almost 8,000 of those things? And it's not just soldiers either. We'll get into that later. It's horses and chariots, and there's acrobats. There's all kind of shit in there.
It's the whole army.
Well, it's army, and it's other things too. It's like entertainers.
Well, that's the army too.
That's what I mean. So
those
it's
armies went with all those guys.
It's all kind of different figures.
That was their TV set. They didn't have TV, VCR, like we had. So you had to bring all the entertainment. The USO came with you.
Sure.
You know, that's what it was.
But yeah, so I kind of feel like it would have been amazing if they'd been able to do all of those sculptures like individually, but they didn't actually. They did it all like an assembly line, like I said. It's just like, they made the legs and then they made like the body parts and stuff, and then the heads were just kind of like more individualistic. But they did them piece by piece and then assembled them afterwards.
I was looking at those faces though, I've seen them, and those were dudes. I'm pretty sure the way the Chinese would think and the kind of thinking that they would use, the organization, they had real good science, a lot better than people think, They were messing with steam power and shit. Maybe not in this particular period, but then later on they were. By the time the 1300s were around, 1200s, I think they had steamships. I mean, there was shit that we can only dream of in the West. They were dealing with it.
I mean, but that like the Terracotta warriors are like from 210 like BCE. Yeah, they're like thousands of years old.
Yeah, but they already had fucking fantastic technology. They were good, real good. The thinking is very modern to what they're doing in terms of how to produce something en masse. But we'll get into it.
What's up, Dave? Hey.
Yeah.
Dave's here.
But the ancient Egyptians were good too.
Yeah. Well, like I said,
that's companies that built those pyramids.
That's why, like, kind of going off on a little bit of a thing, but it's like that's why ancient astronaut kind of stuff kind of sort of pisses me off so much.
Yeah, aliens didn't do that.
Because I'm like, you're really discounting the ingenuity and intelligence of like ancient people who were not dummies. They figured shit out.
There was shit going on in the Greek Golden Age that we'll never understand. Fucking, they were dealing with machines. There's stuff like the Antikythera mechanism that was during the Roman period. I think that was around 100 BC, maybe 200 AD, around that period. I can't remember, but this Antikythera device fell off of a ship and they found it down at the bottom of the ocean. It was just this damn machine to predict where stars would be up in the constellation, and a bunch of gears and cogs. It was a mechanical computer. And people have looked at that and just were fucking amazed. Handmade mechanical computer with cog wheels and perfect. You had to be really good at mathematics in order to make that thing. Production was fucking beautiful. And nothing like that could have been made that we know of up until the 1920s. And this shit's fucking ancient. And they were doing stuff that we could only do in the 20s. And it was better than a damn clock.
They figured shit out.
They were real good. They were real smart.
Well, and the thing, too, is that they didn't have a lot of other distractions like we have in modern life.
Well, they had some geniuses, Archimedes, he was a well-documented genius who accidentally killed by the Romans. They were looking for him. In the middle of a damn war, and a soldier killed him. A Roman soldier killed him. And I don't know if they knew that it was Archimedes or if it was an accident. But
they're like, well, goddamn it.
But even the Romans were pissed that it was a great loss to mankind because he could just make steam engines and mechanical computers and physics. And it was starting to understand physics and geometry, how to measure the mass, like the mass by volume. And, he was just real smart. And he didn't have universities. You just had tutors, tutors and books, which works. That systems like that work. You don't really need universities unless you're dealing with a what do you call it? An industrial society where you need lots of educated work people all at once. Then you need universities. But other than that, you can just have hangouts with just a bunch of experts teaching other experts. But you're going to end up mostly with philosophy and geometry and mathematics. That's what they were big into. Poetry, songs, music. And, rich people. Rich kids went. And, if you could afford a fucking badass tutor, he could come to your house and in a matter of 4, 5, 6 years, maybe you'd know everything he knew. Which that's a good way of doing it.
Oracle says, I love that Archimedes was busy with his geometry when he was murdered.
Yeah,
Don't disturb my circles, reportedly his last words.
Yeah.
Don't fuck with my circles, man. What the fuck?
Yeah, the only reason why it didn't go industrial, really, back in the ancient days, is that there was no need for labor-saving devices. That was the problem. If they had need labor-saving devices, you'd probably had an industrial revolution, but they were insourcing all the damn labor to slaves, Germanic slaves and stuff, making them till soil. So you didn't need anything labor-saving. Technology was only used in places where you could make money, and all the money was being made in temples. So you ended up with things like moving statues and clocks that controlled doors and automatic music makers and shit like that. That coin-operated holy water dispensers. That's not a joke. They had.
Yeah, I know.
But that's where the money was. And really, temples were kind of like the nightclubs and of the era. They were more like entertainment, I think, than anything else. Entertainment and partying. Because they were taking drugs and drinking and singing and dancing, watching shows and having sex and shit, depending on what cult it was. And then they had cult. Man, I'm getting way off track, but cult prostitutes.
What else is new?
Cult prostitutes and shit. And I'm going, well, what we're talking about here is a rave.
Essentially.
What you're talking about is a rave, yeah. Some of them were about drinking breast milk and shit. So it's a fetish club now. Okay, it's a goddess that you drink from her milk from her breasts.
From her boobies.
And then all these pregnant women fucking squirting and everything. This is fucking lactation fetish, okay?
Yeah, it's like they have whole websites for that.
Yeah, because that's what we're talking about here. So they weren't as dumb as you think they were.
They were thousands of years ahead of their time.
They weren't as dumb as you think they were.
Well, it's not so much that. It's just that, there's humans only operate within a certain set of parameters. It's a pretty wide set, I'll give it that. But, you can't really think of anything that hasn't been thought of in some way, shape, or form before. Yeah. You can think of a new take on it, but it might not be as new as you think it is. Humans have been around for a long time thinking.
And they're basically unchanged. Like, you hear a lot of fucking philosophy and shit about progress and shit. We're not progressing. It's a cycle. It's about the same. The future is not going to look like fucking the Jetsons and shit. It's not going to look like even what H.G. Wells thought.
Although it kind of looks like the Jetsons now. We have a lot of stuff that the Jetsons have. Yeah. So it's not that crazy to think that.
But if you look at history, it's fucking shit. I guess you could probably go back almost 6,000 years and you have an idea kind of what happened. Civilizations don't last long. They kind of go through it. Well, and then you say, well, how do you define a civilization? There was always kind of technological growth kind of would stagnate and then go up and then go back down and go up. But people were generally kind of the same. And I think the future is going to look a lot like the past. But they'll still have technology. Eventually, I think it'll just look like what you saw in Dune. The old Dune. It'll be monarchs and warlords with technology and fucking spaceships and shit. But it's probably like that. Warrior cults, religious cults running shit. Shit like banning AI. All that shit's very plausible. Frank Hubert fucking thought about that. That they had AI, but it enslaved them and they rebelled against it in the Butlerian Jihad, It took a long time. It was men being controlled by machines that were controlled by men and men controlling machines. And just that's fucking pretty cool. That you thou shalt not make a machine in the image of the mind of man. You do that shit, then you die. They kill you for that.
Murder Hornet said ancient Romans drew dick pics on walls all the way back then. Yeah, it's true. Well, when they unearthed Pompeii, they found all kind of like porn on the walls. Which... Yeah,
that wasn't necessarily porn all the time though.
No, not porn, but I'm just like, you know what I mean.
We have an arrow go this way on signs, street signs. They had a dick.
Yeah.
And it meant go that way.
Dick says go that way.
Dick says go that way. They had a sense of humor, I guess. It goes that way.
Well, they were very dick-centric.
It goes that way.
It's why draw an arrow when you can draw a penis?
Yeah.
I mean,
It was about masculine power. It's like, it goes that way. I imagine
Follow that dick.
Follow it. And they had truck nuts, but it was nuts and a dick hanging out on the front of your carriage.
Yeah.
Emperor would come down.
Which is hilarious to me. I love that they had truck nuts like in the
truck nuts
ancient.
back then.
Yeah.
Big old dick and nuts.
I mean, I'm sure they didn't really call them that, but well, they probably called them like the ancient Roman equivalent.
Yeah,
of that, I would
truck
imagine.
nuts. Yeah,
because they had a lot of like little dirty fucking.
Yeah, you had that shit hanging out on the front when you were having your triumph back in fucking Rome. You know, after you were awarded something. That's right. Look at the size of the dick on that man. It's like, hell yeah,
fucking,
people. They're fucking throwing dick and tape.
Me.
That's right. It's funny, you know. I think they had a good sense of humor.
That's hilarious to me.
And they have a memorial to a dude would be an obelisk with his fucking head and shoulders right there and his name and what he did and his fucking accomplishments and when he died, everything like that. And then underneath it, there would be a statue of his dick.
Yep.
So just so you could know
and I
how
love
big he was.
that the show Rome and the show Spartacus
shows that. Yep.
And I was like, that's really good. They got that accurate.
That's right.
Because it's like they didn't. I kind of feel like
the measure of a man.
Like a long time ago when they made stuff about ancient Rome, they kind of cleaned it up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So I kind of like that they've gone back to. It's like, no, this is what ancient Rome was actually like. They were like really swore, and it's like, yeah, they actually had the statue. It was like, here's the guy, and here's all his accomplishments, and here's his penis.
That's
like they did. Yeah, it was just like on.
That's what he was packing.
On like a stone plate. Yeah.
That's what he was.
So
packing.
I like that they put that on the show because I'm like, oh, okay, accurate.
But they cheated. If you're fucking sitting there, he's like, come on, man, help me out a little bit. That's
yeah, because I mean, if you had like, God forbid, you had like a micro dick or something but you still like got to like a, through your intelligence or whatever,
right? Yeah,
and you were just like, bro, come on,
help me out a little bit, Well, you're paying him to do the statue.
That's what I'm saying. So. Like, you're the one that's paying. You're like, come on, just like, So I imagine this is for posterity.
I would imagine there was a lot of dick propaganda.
Yeah. Well, it's not like anybody that's paying for a statue like that is going to have their dick be smaller. Right. I mean, they're always going to have it be bigger. I mean, and especially...
You're not going to be able to check. They're dead.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So and that's probably what they thought. It's for posterity. They're like, 100 years from now, people are going to be like, woo, look at the member on that fella. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of, it's like no one's going to know. No one took a picture. I mean, he didn't send dick pics to people over fucking Instagram or whatever. Yeah. So you know what I mean?
I think you're supposed to stand for that kind of shit. For the sculpting part, they probably drew it first because that'd be easier.
Yeah, because you don't want to stand there like while somebody sculpts your dick.
Probably done from a drawing of your face and your dick first.
I wonder did they just like coat it in plaster like that?
You could probably do that too, but then that would probably be easier. Distort it. Shit, have you ever seen when they fucking plaster fucking body part gets all distorted?
Well, yeah, didn't like Cynthia Master Blaster Caster Plaster? What was her name? Remember, she was that groupie that like followed all those bands around. Yeah. She was an artist, and she did all those
plasters of dudes.
Plaster casts of like dudes' crotchular areas. Yeah. Gramther says there are some black churches in Detroit where they have swinger parties and get all drunk and doink. Okay. Hey, that's what they want to do. That's what they want.
Let them do what they want to do, man.
Mrs. Evans' Arty Party says Charitus Nutimus Maximus. Yeah. Tammy said, on a totally different topic, I saw something that said they might have proof the 3 guys that escaped from Alcatraz might have gone to Brazil to live. I heard something about that just the other day. What was that? I was watching something about Escape from Alcatraz, or I saw it like on some other thing, and they said, yeah, they think those dudes might have like lived, might have survived. They never found their bodies, right? Yeah. I kind of been wanting to do a show about Escape from Alcatraz, but I put it in the Patreon poll a bunch of times and it never wins.
That would be the place to go because in that era, I don't think Brazil had extradition, and it would be it's easy to make. Yeah. I lived there, so it'd be easy for Americans to live there, especially in that era. Brazil was doing good. It'd be like running into Argentina back when Argentina was good. I know there was another bank robber that ran down there. I think it was in the 60s or the 70s. And he was famous in Brazil for being a bank robber. He lived in the favela, though. He didn't have any money. But he got married.
What happened to all the money that he stole from the bank?
Spent it all up, probably.
Dummy.
He didn't. I don't think he spent a lot.
I mean, I thought the whole point of like doing like a big bank heist was like that, so you wouldn't have to do it again. I mean, get enough the first time so you can like disappear and retire and live the rest of your life without having to work.
Live large for a few years and fucking blow all their money.
That's idiotic. Don't do that kind of shit.
That's what they do.
And plus, it makes you more, vulnerable to getting caught by the law. So like, hey, why does this motherfucker suddenly have all this money and he's doing like throwing money around?
Well, it
like
didn't matter in
water.
Brazil because he told everybody who he was. There was no extradition.
Hi, I'm a bank robber.
Yeah,
Nice
he's
to
an
meet you.
American bank robber. He had the money, but they couldn't extradite. They didn't have an extradition treaty back then. I remember seeing articles of him back in the 80s. He had been there for a long time, 20 years maybe 30 years. It might have happened in the 50s. But he was an old man in the article.
Yeah, Oracle brings up, for that matter, look at the cod piece. Yeah, that was another thing.
Yeah.
That was Middle Ages, like early Middle Ages, like trying to like puff out
A lot of that stuff,
dick
though.
size.
A lot of that stuff, like from Europe, like those Italian statues that the church made, and like Michelangelo looking stuff.
Yeah, she brought that.
They
up.
had these little fucking micro dicks and shit.
Well, that's not quite a micro dick, but it's pretty small.
Yeah, the thing is, that was the church behind that. They'd see this fucking dude packing in the church and get kind of fucking. They would commission the statue half the time, and they were like, "Oh, well, I don't know. That looks awful sexy.
Can we make
You know
it
what I mean?
smooth like a Ken
And
doll?
they're like, well, what you're supposed to be? This is classic. This and that. This is good. No, it's nude. This is a Greek statue. And they're like, well, could you make it? Could you cover it? No. Could you make it smaller? Yeah, I'll make it smaller. So they started asking them to make the shit smaller and smaller. And originally they weren't that small, but they were trying to minimize the dick.
Well, because everybody in church was getting all horny looking.
Yeah,
up
they're
at
trying
it,
to minimize the
apparently.
dick, which is kind of like
It's
how
like,
the
can you
Japanese
put some
make
pants
the
on?
Japanese make porn, but then they pixelate it. That's kind of what they were doing.
Oracle said, let's face it, men throughout the ages have found excuses to show off their dicks. Yeah, it's true. And then she said, and throughout the ages, women have wished they could just get a little foreplay or at least a nice foot rub. Yep, that's true.
Yep.
Let's see. She also says, something I heard about, again, recent, is anybody else familiar with a he's at home? No, what did she say? Reportedly, a he's at home was a dildo that the whalers would whittle for their wives so that when the whalers were at sea, the wives could entertain themselves. I mean, I'd heard about them doing that, but I didn't know that it had a name. That's like really funny. Here you go. Let's just to keep you company while I'm away.
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious.
Sounds like a tail, though.
Well, they did have dildos back
Yeah,
then. I
that just
mean,
sounds
they've
like-
had dildos
Yeah.
since like the ancient times.
It's probably just something that women bought.
Well, yeah, they might.
I
have
don't
wanted to.
think some whaler made that for his wife. I don't think they did that.
Yeah, somebody maybe they made them and sold them like
Yeah.
as a side gig.
Right. The story was probably that, but probably in real life, that's probably not what it was.
Here, honey, play with this
In
instead
real
of
life,
diddling the
they just
milkman.
bought that shit.
Well, yeah, just give me a baby's arm, says
Yeah.
Fort Jordan. Fort Jordan also says, yes, a British criminal called Ronnie Biggs fled to Brazil after robbing a mail train in the 1960s.
That's who it probably was. I thought he was American.
Yeah.
That's probably who it was. Yeah. He's kind of a heavy-set guy from what I remember. He didn't have any money when they did an article on him. He was living in the favela.
Oracle said the article I read showed a photo of it, the dildo, and it's obviously a dildo. Yeah, I mean they've found like dildos. You don't really see them in museums so much, but museums absolutely have them in their collection. They just don't put them on display because
They're from all around the world.
it's a family show. I
Romans
guess.
Romans had some stuff that by today's standards would be fucking filthy. They didn't think they were that filthy though, because when they saw it, they had stories, religious stories that kind of went along with it. There was one thing that happened where some noblemen were sitting around having this. I think is in the 1500s, maybe 1600s. They paid to have this excavation done in this area to find Roman stuff, and they found a Roman statue of something. And as they were uncovering it, they went and they got the royal family, the noble family and all their friends who had paid for the excavation. They're all standing around it while they're slowly uncovering it. And it's a man. And then they see it's a man. His face is up. He's got a beard and shit. And as they keep going and going, and all of a sudden there's a goat.
Yeah, I
And then
remember
it's just
that
going
statue.
and going and going. And what it is it's a satyr.
Yeah.
screwing a fucking female goat. He's got it by its fucking back leg.
They're like,
trying
ooh,
to fight
amazing.
its-
Oh.
Yeah, they're like, oh, they covered that shit up. They all fucking went, oh, it's just unacceptable.
I've seen it though. I saw
Yeah.
a documentary about it. I think
Yeah.
it's it might be in the British Museum collection now. I don't think that was the only one. I think there were a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I think the one you're talking about, I think, is maybe in the British Museum's collection. They don't usually put it out. I think they have put it out on display like for kind of special events and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite a beautiful statue.
Yeah, its fucking quality's really good.
It's gorgeous, yeah. But
And,
it's obviously
it's
a
basically
dude,
fucking-
a dude fucking a goat. So
well, it's not a dude, it's a satyr.
well, yeah.
So it's a mythological man beast performing an act of bestiality on a fucking goat. And
Fun.
the noble class couldn't take it. They're like, oh no, man.
They clutched their pearls and
No.
headed for the fainting patches.
But there was some kind of Roman story that went along with that. It was religious.
There was. I remember
Some-
reading it a long time
yeah.
ago, but I can't remember what the particular.
But they didn't have the context. They didn't know what it was they were looking at.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, it's just porny, and we can't have that. But
Yeah. There was a lot of porny shit they were
but
doing.
like I said, there's a lot of porny shit, and I
Must be
think
a lot of it in the Vatican.
yeah. Well, I think there's.
storage
I
room.
mean, pretty much any museum like of any size or
Yeah.
anything has a fuck ton of that stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't usually put it on display because they're like, oh, kids come in here and we don't have
Right.
we don't want their parents to have awkward conversations and
Right,
shit like that.
What is that?
Why
Why is a satyr fucking a she-goat?
Why is
She's trying to get away, so it's rape. Raping a fucking goat. And he's laughing.
Well, this man just really, really likes this goat very, very much. Little Timmy.
Yeah. All right, shall we get to the... Is there anything we got to say? Anything we
I
got to
don't
plug?
think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Do you want to plug any of your other channels?
Well, yeah, I got
Okay.
2 other channels now.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of feel like everybody knows. I have been like putting them in the community tab, like on the 13 o'clock channel, just in case. But more people need to go over there and subscribe because the quicker y'all subscribe, the more I can, like, the sooner I can monetize the channels, which would be nice. But yeah, the one I put up a while back, which is all horror stuff, is Scare Salon. It's horror, like movies and books mostly. And there's also a true crime one called Crime Immemorial. Sorry. And I got a mug for it right there that I made. And that one just has 1 video, but I'm actually putting up another video tomorrow. I'm going to be putting up 2 a week. And it has like a website, crimeimmemorial.com, which is all written stuff about unsolved murders. And I'm going to put new stuff up every day. So there's that. I don't know why I just like suddenly my throat went all like that, like all dry, like tickly. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about the emperor who commissioned the Terracotta army. And you wanted to talk about the tomb as well, even though they don't know a huge amount about the rest of the tomb because only like 1% of it has been excavated. Like they've dug out most of the terracotta soldiers that they know of. Like I said, I think it's 7,500, 8,000 at this point.
Yeah.
There might be some more, but they haven't really gone too much into like the tomb itself or like the mausoleum complex.
Yeah. This is some mystery shit. It's kind of like our underground mysteries, but it also gets involved with paranormal stuff. There's some paranormal thinking involved with this. The Chinese always... Well, not always, because now, communism got them not to believe in anything that was fucking spiritual. But traditional Chinese culture was very paranormal, very mystical. They believed in spiritual dimensions, spiritual monsters, demons, things like vampires, afterlives, and hells. And China was not unified. Some would say, oh, well, China's thousands of years old. Not really. Modern China is really the kind of an invention of the 1960s and the 80s. Around that. It hasn't been around that long. Before that time, it was just a bunch of warring states. Swallowing each other up, conquering each other. So there was no unified China. It was just an area. And then they, even in the 20th century, they were going through a big warlord period. They made some weird-ass guns by hand. Not even knowing what a gun was, they were making them. things that look like sites, but you couldn't look through them, so they didn't really know what sites were. Just weird shit. They just saw pictures of things and copy it with no training, which is kind of a testament to the genius of the Chinese. They could just see a photograph of something and go, that shoots. And then just based on a photograph, not even really understanding anything about guns, try to copy it. Which I wouldn't have the balls to do it. And it worked, kind of. You can look that up. It's called Guns of the Chinese Warlords on YouTube. Weird shit. Chinese mystery pistols. You can search that. You'll see some stuff on YouTube. So the Chinese were always genius. They were a genius people. Kind of stuck between different worlds. Kind of like the Greek world of rationalism and the Chinese world of fucking precision and the fucking weird spirit world. The Chinese were always very precision oriented, keeping records, numbers, making systems. They were very systematic about things, you know. Such a, you know, and ancient Chinese secrets, steam power, ships. They could think in large volumes, you know, how to make massive armies. Big ships like Zhonghua, you know, it had a big fleet of fucking steamships. Fucking went all the way to Europe. This is back in the 1500s, you know, long before we had steamships. They were ahead. Fell behind, and only in recent times, 1800s, you know. They went through what they called a century of shame, I think is what they called it, where they were just backwards and failing, starving, cannibalism in China. Kind of like a warring states period, too. So they're trying to make a comeback. A lot of the shit the Chinese do today has to do with that century of humiliation. They're trying to make a comeback, and they hold Britain responsible. But they've always been a disciplined, calculating people. And this goes all the way back to this first emperor of China, I think is usually what they call it.
Yeah, I mean,
Shaanxi Di, or some people call. I've heard him called a couple different things, but it plays on that. Shaanxi Di.
It's actually the most common. Like I said, he has like some different names, but I've heard it pronounced Qin Shi Huang.
Qin Shi Huang, yeah,
something like that. Yeah, but I'm not gonna say that every single time.
Right? Yeah.
Or Huang Di.
Huang Di.
Which we'll get into like the wording of. That's not actually his name.
It's a title.
That's a title.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll get into that. But that's the name that he's most commonly known by.
Yeah. Now some of us said, well, he's not really the first emperor of China. He was just like one of the first real badass notable warlords, because he did unify a couple of lands in China together, but evidently they didn't hold together for very long.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna get all into that.
You're gonna get into that, but
yeah, I'm gonna get all into that.
But he had this massive tomb complex with a lot of mysterious shit that to this day is still a mystery. When I was a kid, they were talking about digging into that tomb complex. It was supposed to have a 3D map of all the lands that he ruled, and all the water had been replaced with mercury, and it flowed through it like the rivers. And he was buried down in there with his brides chained to the wall like some shit out of Conan, and badass tomb complex in there. They went and did a fucking mercury test, and yeah, it kind of generally, the mercury that's seeping up through the ceiling and it goes through the ground on the top of that mountain in general does look like an ancient map of the Chinese conquered territory. But they don't know. I think they once tried to put a camera down in there, but I'm not sure how successful that was.
Like I said, they're
afraid to go in there.
They're kind of afraid to go in there for, danger reasons, and also because it's a massive archaeological find and they don't want to fuck it up.
Yeah, if oxygen gets in there, it's going to destroy a lot of stuff.
Well, and that's kind of happened to a lot of the Terracotta warriors, and honestly, some of the ones that they first excavated, as soon as they unearthed them, like, they started to deteriorate, and I think, like, a little bit later, they kind of like figured out a way chemically to like keep that from happening, like to keep air from sort of like fucking up the terracotta. But prior to that, like, yeah, a lot of them once were restored. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but the Terracotta warriors, I mean, as cool as they look, like, all that kind of uniform color, they were all brightly painted at one point.
Yeah.
And all the paint has obviously like worn off over this because it's been buried for like 2,000 years before anybody found it. Nobody even knew it was there until the 70s. Really.
Strangely enough, the Chinese have money and they have technology. But they don't seem to be real curious about that Shirwan burial chamber.
Well, no, they're all digging into it. They got like all kind of archaeologists over there.
Are they going to go in there? Because
they're talking about going in there.
Okay,
like they've done like all kind of like magnetic resonance, and they're kind of like trying to figure out where everything's at and like the best way they can approach it. And
okay, good.
Shit
so
like
still
that.
Thinking about it.
Yeah,
because you're going to have to build an airlock and then dig the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And then
like I said, they're just. I think their reluctance is more because we have to approach this the right way,
right?
Because we don't want to open it up and everything fuck up because it's like a really like.
You got to go in there in spacesuits, basically. You need to build an airlock, go in there with a spacesuit, dig using spacesuits and machines, and then you'll go into there and you walk around in there, bring in your own atmosphere. You got to be worried about UV light. Even light can destroy pigments. So you might want to go in there with some kind of light magnification. You go no light at all. Or, some kind of an invisible light. And to try to take pictures of things. Because you bring in some bright light, it might fucking destroy some of the pigments on the walls. There's going to be pictures and shit.
Yeah. I think, like I said, that's what they're worried about. And I think that's why they're kind of like being really circumspect about it, because they're like, well, this is our only shot at doing this.
You got to do it right the first time.
And we got to do it right the first time. So that's why they're kind of like trying to do. So like I said, they've been trying to do stuff from like outside with like, magnetic kind of stuff just to see where everything's at. And it's like try to figure out what's going on in there. So it's like they don't really want to like just barge in there. Yeah. Because, the thing about the Terracotta Warriors was that they were found by accident.
Yeah.
And then they dug it all out, and they were like, holy shit, look at all of this here. Because, no one really expected it to
It's rumored that inside that tomb complex is a bunch of traps, like some shit out of Indiana Jones.
I have heard that, that there's booby traps.
That you're collapsing walls, fucking ceilings that come down on you, boom, like that, stone blocks that fall to seal shit off.
Like I said, just like Tomb Raider.
Yeah, and
I don't know if that's true, but there's a lot of rumors about that.
The Chinese were... meticulous about that kind of stuff. They were worried about grave robbery. Now, evidently, some have surmised that there were going to be everlasting, ever burning, basically oil lamps in there lighting it up. Now we know nothing lasts forever, but they might have had some kind of lamp system burning fucking what they consider to be an eternal amount of fucking fuel oil. I don't see how it's possible, but the Chinese could think up maybe some natural gas.
I mean, the thing about it is that because they haven't really gone in there to any great degree, and because they've excavated so much of the Terracotta Warriors, which, to be honest, is quite amazing, I think, I don't know, people's imaginations are going to run away with them.
Yeah. Some of this metal work on this stuff, like the carriages and the things that are on the horses and the weapons, looks like something from the 20th century. That's how good that metalwork is.
Well, a lot of the weapons were real. Yeah. And a lot of the chariots worked. Yeah. They were like working chariots.
And they're made out of like bronze and fucking brass and shit like that. And the work is like, it looks modern. It looks ultra modern. It doesn't look crude and ancient. I mean, it's beautiful, well made. Just... It's made by hand, but you would never know. It looks like it was made by a fucking computer.
Every time I see pictures of that, of just all the compounds and like and how big it is, it's big as like a football field or bigger, and it just amazes me that somebody like built all that. Yeah. I mean, not one person, obviously, it was lots of people, but I've seen like the thing about it. Even Wikipedia says that it was like 700,000 people like over. Now I'm not talking about like all at once because like I said, it took them like 38 years. To build this whole like mausoleum complex, but I don't know. I don't know if it was 700,000 people. I've seen some scholars are kind of like there's no way. It's like there's no city had that many people in it at that time that they know of. They said it was probably more like 15,000. Like 15,000 dudes could probably do that, like given enough time and resources. So you don't really need to say that it was 1 million dudes, but I don't know. It might have been 1 million dudes.
Quality control. The stuff that I looked at was fucking immaculate quality control. The stuff that they were making was made by hand and it was artist rendered stuff, but it looked like it was made by $1 million industries. It looked like it was made by machines and computers and lathes. Looked like it was something that's fucking machined on a fucking modern computer generated lathe, but it wasn't. They were just that good with dealing with metal. They were fucking great. If you were to hand them a modern assault rifle, they'd look at that and go, "Oh, we can make that." They'd make it, but they'd make it by hand and be precisely like an AK-47 or an AR-15. They didn't have aluminum, but they would just make it in steel or bronze or brass. But it would look just like that. That's how good they were. They were good enough to do the measurements and everything. Based on what I saw, like I say, they could easily make something like a 1911 45 auto or a Thompson submachine gun. They could make that by hand. They were good, real good.
Fourth Row Down said they need to send Tom Cruise in there. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, Tom Cruise figured it out.
Well, somebody was talking about the third Mummy movie earlier, which we reviewed not too long ago, right? And that kind of has the Terracotta Army. Because, like I said, the Terracotta Army is very, very famous. But as I said, that's just kind of like... And they have, like, a museum there now, too. You can actually go and, like, stand next to the things and, like, get your picture taken and shit like that. But it's really kind of just, like, a smaller part of this whole mausoleum complex, which they haven't really delved into all that much. But... Like I said, they'll get around to it, I think, but they want to make sure they don't fuck it up. So let's talk about this emperor. Now, like I said, I'm apologizing in advance because I'm sure I'm going to like butcher a lot of these fucking names. Now, this guy is usually known, like I said, the way I heard it pronounced, and I'm like as close as I can pronounce it, was Qin Shi Huang.
All right.
That's how I heard it pronounced.
Qin Shi Huang.
Yeah.
I always heard it as Shaanxi.
Well,
but that's another title.
That's what I mean. He had like a bunch of different names. And like I said, sometimes, like that's the most common one, but sometimes I see Huangdi as well, which I'll get into like the nomenclature a little bit later because I thought that was kind of interesting. But like I said, that's more of a title. That's not his actual name. So that's just what
probably
he
just means first emperor.
Yeah, like I said, I'll get into it a little bit. Now, his name, what he was named at birth was just Zhang.
Okay, Zhang.
That's what he was named at birth. Like I said, that was a
That's
title.
still a common name today.
Yeah. Now, so he was essentially, just as an overview, like he was king of the Chinese state of Qin from 247 BCE to 221 BCE, and then the first emperor of a unified China from 221 BCE to 210 BCE, and he ruled under the name the First Emperor. And like I said, he wasn't the first emperor ever. He was just the first guy that sort of unified all of these warring states into one thing and codified a lot of things, making everything like kind of all one thing. Now, at the time that he was born, China was, like you said, it wasn't one thing. It was a whole bunch of different feudal states that were all at war with one another, as feudal states tend to be. So, just because it's the most obvious thing to call it, this period of history is known as the Warring States period, because, of course, they were states, they were warring, it was a Warring States period. So, they were constantly fighting. Now, so one was taking over another, you know how it goes. So, by 260 BCE, there were only kind of a handful of holdouts left. The others had been conquered, taken over, like, into larger warring states. But the state that Zhang was born into, which is called Qin, was kind of the biggest, the most powerful at that time. Now, at this point, it was governed by something that was called the legalist philosophy, which is one of kind of like I think it's like 5 philosophies or something like that. Basically what legalism is, at least as far as I could determine, because it's kind of complicated and I don't want to go too much into it, but it's kind of like philosophically, people who are like into like legalism, the Chinese philosophy, it's like human beings are kind of like shitheads and are more inclined to be selfish and do shit wrong unless you really like crack down on them and have really, really strict laws where everything is like really clearly delineated and everybody knows what they have to do and why they have to do it, and if they do something bad, then like the punishments are very harsh. So like I said, it's kind of like an authoritarian type of thing. And they're basically saying, well, the best way to operate shit is very, very strict laws. Let people pursue selfish interests, but only to the extent that it is beneficial to the state, like, letting them do agriculture, warfare, building projects, shit like that. And then you have an administrative system that would give you'd have like officials and stuff, and they would get like money and rank and stuff like that, but they had to be kind of like cracked down on too, so they wouldn't usurp the power of like the ultimate ruler type thing.
So in other words, there was an anti-bureaucracy mode. They didn't want the bureaucrats.
I mean, they had bureaucrats, but there was a very, very clearly delineated system of rules, and there wasn't any kind of like this individual like thing where it's like, oh, we'll make exceptions or this, that, and the other for like an individual.
So right now you're just talking about the system of legalism.
Well, I'm just talking about I'm just talking about when
that's the general term we use, legalism.
Yeah. I already said that.
Okay.
When you were here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what was going on. You had like the Warring States period, and the state that Zheng was born into was one that was run by that. Although he was actually born in another state called Zhao. Now the reason that he was born there was because his dad, whose name was Zichu, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Now, he was a prince from Qin, but he was a hostage in this other enemy state.
Yeah.
Because there was an agreement between the two states, and he was just like, I don't think they were like doing nothing bad to him, but they were just like keeping
family members.
Yeah, they would like keep him. They were keeping him prisoner.
Back in those days, to keep the peace, you'd trade family members. And sometimes it involved marriage. Sometimes it's just, no, give me your son. He can stay with me. And that'll ensure that you won't attack me.
Because my kid's over there.
Right.
So they did that in Rome and shit.
Yeah, they did the same thing. Usually they were treated real well. They were given the best education and the food and lifestyle and shit, because you were expected to take his son also. So you had to treat his... And usually there was like a veneer of friendliness. I will treat your son as my son. He will be my son too. I'm his uncle. That kind of shit. You know what I mean? It's like that.
Yeah. So that's why Zheng was born there, because that's where his dad was being like a hostage, quote unquote. Now, Zichu, his dad, later went back to Qin, where he was a prince of, with the help of this kind of rich merchant guy that he knew, whose name was Liu Buwei. And
I remember Liu Buwei.
Yeah, or Liu whatever. Buwei, yeah. And he essentially became like prime minister, chancellor, or something like that, like of Qin. Now, according to the story, now nobody knows if this is true, but the legend is that Zheng, who would later become the emperor that we're talking about today, who built the Terracotta warriors, that he wasn't actually the son of his dad, like who everybody thinks his dad is, but was Liu Buwei's son. And the reason everybody says that is because Zheng's mother was Liu Buwei's concubine, or one of them, and then he gave her to Zheng's dad, like he did with concubines. But you have other ones. Here, have this one. It's like a gesture of good faith or whatever. So, and the story goes that when he gave her to Zichu, she was already pregnant. Now, nobody knows if that's true or not, but that's the story. So nobody knows if Zheng was actually like a legitimate birth, or if this other guy was actually his dad.
Probably legitimate.
Yeah.
But like, you see, you always got to fucking kind of undermine somebody. You know what I mean? Oh, that shit goes on even in English history a lot. You know what I mean? William the Bastard and all that kind of shit. Yeah. Becoming William the Conqueror. But, questioning a motherfucker's bloodline. If you're that much of a badass, then we're gonna have to start questioning your bloodline. He was probably legitimate.
That's what I'm saying, and I think a lot of scholars think that too. They're just like, this legend persisted probably just because after he died, like people who didn't like him took over. So we're kind of like trying to. But the thing about it is that he didn't really like the Confucians, and when the Confucians came in, it's like if he had actually been illegitimate, they absolutely would have brought that up, and they didn't really. So they're kind of like questioning whether that was a true story or not.
Probably not.
So I don't know if it is, but that's kind of like a really common legend about his birth or whatever.
The Romans, the Romans had an equivalent of that. After you were dead, and as long as after you were dead, and as long as none of your ancestors were on the imperial throne, they'd start questioning your sexuality. It wasn't whether or not you had a boyfriend, it's whether or not you were taking it into booty or not. And that happened a lot of times. They're saying, "Oh yeah, he was fucking around with that dude, and he was the female out of the fucking."
Yeah, because they didn't really have a problem as long as you were the top.
As long as you were the top, you just weren't supposed to be the bottom.
It didn't really matter.
No.
Everyone nobody wanted to be the receiver.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Which is like, it's like that to this day.
You had to be the pitcher and not the catcher.
Exactly. It's to this day. You know, I grew up in Brazil. You know, Central South America still like that. The fucking heterosexual male is always at the top of the fucking man fucking pile. Okay, you can. They tell you could be gay. You know, they didn't have anything against that. It's just that you were lower in the male caste system. Now, you could be gay, but as long as you were a top, you had more respect than a bottom. Okay? It's just...
Because that's being like hierarchy. A woman, and women are way the fuck down, though.
No. Women had good status, too. It was just a different status. It was just the men and women were kind of like two parallel civilizations that happened. You know, but fucking at the top, but you know, of course, most of these machinations are straight guys coming up with this, and these are the systems that we make. You know what I mean? You're gonna be like, we're at the top.
Well, yeah, of course. Everyone else is kind of like, whatever.
If we're gonna make this up, then
you just keep thinking that.
That's just, you know, you man know what I'm talking about.
And everyone else just rolls their eyes at you.
What? I'm just okay. I'm just saying, you know. Well, it's like my buddy Toby. You know, he's leather daddy. He's the top. Okay. He likes straight guys. He wants to hang out with straight guys. And, you know, he would go out with a straight guy if he could, but if he went out with him, then he wouldn't be straight anymore, and the status would go away. So you know what I mean. Sometimes, you know what I mean, if you're straight, the gay guys might like you, but they'd lose respect for you if you became gay. They wouldn't like you as much. They like you because you're straight, you know. But it's not all gay guys are like that, but there's a certain kind of gay guys that are like that.
It's so complicated. I mean,
it's a complicated thing.
You should just like people that are cool. And
yeah, well, that's what I do.
And not worry about it otherwise.
I don't take any of that hierarchy shit that seriously. I think it's fun. You know what I mean? Because if you don't have that as a backdrop, then you live in a world of chaos. But there's rules, but I don't care about breaking the rules. I just like to know what the default rules are. You know what I mean? I feel more comfortable with that. And I think a lot of other guys are like that too. That they like to at least default rules so they know when they're breaking the rules or not. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Murder Hornet, Confucius say, he who stand on toilet is high on pot. You know what? My dad and my grandfather were super into those Confucius say jokes. I can't really remember any of them, but I feel like my dad used to say those all the time.
See, Kanabasan says, hell yeah, I agree.
Well, I don't know if he's agreeing with.
He's saying
the
ego on that dude, that's some toxic masculinity.
It is.
Hell yeah, I agree. See,
can you imagine like thinking so much of yourself? Although I will add, and this was what I was going to say earlier, and I think you went off on a tangent and I forgot.
Yeah.
But I will add that they think that the reason that that Zheng here built this massive complex and all of these soldiers was because he was scared to death of dying, which we'll get into in a little bit. 2, he was afraid that everybody he had conquered in life was going to come kick his ass in the afterlife.
Exactly.
And so he needed these soldiers to like protect him.
In the afterlife.
So it wasn't so much badassery or ego as being a chicken shit. Thinking everybody's going to come kick his ass after he dies.
Well, it depends on how you interpret it. He thought he was at war in life, so therefore when he got into the spirit world, he would have to continue the war to protect himself against his enemies, because they were over there too, waiting for him.
Yeah, he thought everybody...
Logical assumption.
It is. So, it's not weird to think that. It's not weird to think that.
When I go into the afterlife, they're all going to be waiting.
They're all going to like come get me.
So we're going to have to fight him over there too.
So I'm going to need lots of soldiers.
And we will go to the final victory. We'll fucking whip ass. We'll take over heaven. Okay? And that's how the Chinese would think. We'll take over heaven when we get there. And the soldiers were like, well, yeah, of course. We took over here. We're going to take over there. You know?
Yeah.
I'll serve you over there, and then we'll run heaven. Because they didn't have Judeo-Christian concept of that there was a supreme God in charge of heaven. Heaven was just another dimension.
Well, and I kind of feel like it's from time immemorial, like humans have kind of like extrapolated our experience here on Earth into the afterlife. Well, it's going to be like that, but more.
Yeah.
Or slightly different.
Right.
But it's essentially the same thing. Because that's what your experience is.
Right.
So you're just going to like kind of exaggerate that experience.
That's why I'm saying those terracotta soldiers that she's going to tell you about, their faces are different because they represented fucking real soldiers that died. That were going to serve the emperor in the afterlife. Probably some reward to be the emperor's soldiers in heaven. Because you're going to take over heaven. You're going to be warlords in heaven. That's quite
which sounds
that's a badass mission.
Sure.
After I die here, I'm going to go to heaven, and fucking me and Sherwan, he's been dead 20 years, but we're gonna link up. We're gonna fucking continue the war over there. I'm old here, but over there I'll be young again, and we'll all go back to work. That's what they're doing.
Gotta say, old Zheng didn't live till he was too old, though. And we'll get into why.
No, I'm talking about the soldiers.
Yeah, I know.
Some of them might have lived to be old.
But we'll get into why that happened, because I think that's kind of like funny.
Well, that motherfucker eating all that damn mercury.
Well, you spoiled it.
I'll say, well, okay. Okay, he spoiled it.
Man, he's running his mouth all the time.
Chinese medicine wasn't what you think it was.
Mr. 88 said, isn't chicken shit the yin to massive ego's yang? Yes.
I don't want to say he's a
generally.
I don't want to say he's a chicken shit. I didn't meet him.
No, I'm just saying that's... Well, I mean, I was just being, kind of facetious, but I meant that a lot of the, the reason that he built that was because of fear.
Well, he assumed the war would continue in the afterlife.
Right.
You would have to consider that with the mythos that they believed in and the world, the worldview that they had. We died, it's just another dimension, we got to continue over there. So, he's going to continue being the first emperor over there with his armies, and the war continues, and we're going to take over heaven. That's what he's thinking.
So Zheng, at this point, he ascends the throne in 247 BCE. At this point, he is less than 13 years old. 12 and a half, I believe he was. So because he was still a kid, he actually had like a regent, which is what they usually did in those situations when a little kid like ascended to the throne. So when he turned 21 in 238 BCE, he actually was like, fuck this shit, did a coup in the palace and took over. Like a man does, I guess. Mm-hmm. So basically he had like a bunch of assassination attempts against him. As again, that happened a lot in the ancient world. And he decided, I don't know if he decided, but he just decided he was going to I'm just going to take over the rest of these like warring states and take them all fucking over. So by 221 BCE, he actually ended up defeating the last remaining independent Chinese state, which was called Qi. And he defeated it and unified what was known of China at the time. So for the first time, China was unified under one ruler. Now, that same year, he was 38 years old, and he proclaimed himself the first emperor. Now, it was at this point that he actually changed his name or took over the new title, which he thought of himself. He wasn't bestowed. He was just well, because this was a new position. Nobody had really done this before. Yeah. So he's well, I'm not just an old king of one little state or nothing like that, like back in the day.
No.
Back in the Warring States period, I run all this shit.
And above.
And yeah. So he decided to come up with the term Huangdi.
Yeah.
Now, the word Huang comes from three Huang, or meaning three august ones, who were the three guys that kind of ruled at the dawn of history. And then the ones that ruled after them, D, the 5D, or five sovereigns, and they ruled immediately afterward. Yeah. So these people were kind of considered the perfect rulers. They were very, very powerful. They lived a really long time. And he wanted to take something from that. It should be noted too that the word Huang also means great or big. And the word D also means supreme God in heaven, or the creator of the world.
That's what I was gonna say.
So he put those two words.
Celestial rulers.
Yeah, he put those two words together.
Yeah.
and then became Qin, which was the name of the state where he came from, and then Shi Huang or Huangdi, meaning pretty much like great emperor of the world or first emperor of the world, whatever.
There was a lot of inferences, though, in these titles and the symbolism that they used as that he was a celestial deity, that he was something. Not only was he in charge of the world as they knew it, he was in charge of outer fucking space, stars and everything. Quite, it was the highest of the high. He was he ruled all the shit. Kind of like, kind of saying that like he ruled heaven.
Well, yeah, because, much like a lot of other ancient cultures at the time,
kind of a god emperor.
Well, including like the Greco-Roman world and stuff like that, they kind of considered, like the Romans, like the Roman Empire is the entire world pretty much.
Yeah.
And the ancient Chinese thought the same way. It's just kind of like, this is the entire world.
Yeah.
And if you run it, then you run all of it.
Yeah, there was. I would almost say he wasn't like a Roman emperor, though, closer to an Egyptian pharaoh. Almost a religious figure, almost.
Yeah, it was a similar, very
Right.
parallel kind of thing, I think.
Almost a man god.
And Hugo said it's funny how the Chinese, the Maya, and the Egyptians were all emperors and all believed in the afterlife. Lots of similarities in these cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a human constant.
That's what I mean, and it's just kind of like that's why you see these kind of parallels across vastly different cultures. Otherwise, is that like I said, humans have certain parameters that they operate within.
Yeah.
It's very wide parameters, but you see the same things like repeating over and over, especially under similar circumstances.
We live in a very special time frame, and to me it looks like this time is coming to an end, but it'll take a long time, another 100 years probably, but eventually it will go back to what humans really are, which they're like this. Doesn't mean that technology will go away. Technology will still be there. I envision the future being more kind of like Dune, like that. A mixture of the ancient and the futuristic. Because that kind of, humans are more built for that. They seem to like it more and they thrive more. Not a lot of introspection. More, this would be kind of considered fun, But also the difficulty level a little bit higher. More challenging. Not sitting around just getting fat, being lazy, being pampered and shit. See Frank Hubert fucking the Butlerian Jihad. You can fucking look that up on YouTube and there'll be a quick little fucking thing of what the Butlerian Jihad was like. People getting fat, lazy, and weak because AI, computers, and fucking robots doing everything for them. Alright? And then eventually enslaving them and making them... And then people rebelling from that and going back to their roots. That's probably what will happen. Because 6,000 years of human history shows you what you are. And I think it's good. We can do it better next time. They didn't know as much as we know. Next time it'd be even better.
All right, so where was I? Okay. So even though, I guess in the West, when we say like that his title is like Huangdi, they usually render that as emperor, even though, I don't know, it kind of, there's a lot more like cultural context behind that, I guess. It's like actually like a lot bigger word.
Like a god emperor, pharaoh. It's almost like saying pharaoh.
Kind of like that. I kind of feel like it's more like that.
Yeah, I think that's what they're talking about.
So what he decided to do, because he had seen the kind of political chaos going on with the Warring States period, so he decides, him and his prime minister, whose name was Li Si, they decided they were going to get rid of feudalism. So they abolished it. So what they ended up doing was the empire that they now ruled over, they divided it into 36 different areas, which they called like commanderies, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, what they did was that they put each of the 36 like little areas, they had a governor that they would, put in charge of that. But if you fucked up, they could just like fire you. They also had
control zones is what they're talking about.
Right, essentially.
Yeah.
So then they had like a civilian guy like to run shit and a military guy. but they kind of kept them separate so you could have like different stuff going on. Now the civil guy had more power than the military guy, but they also had another guy who was kind of like an inspector, who was like an arbiter, kind of like he would arbitrate like if there was like a disagreement.
Kind of like a Supreme Court member.
Yeah. And the civilian guy, they would move him around every few years because they didn't want anybody getting too much power in any one area and like I said, like usurping his power.
So they're talking about
kind of
checks and balances is what they're talking about.
Essentially that's what they were doing. So
not a bad system.
Yeah. I mean, he did some fucked up shit, but
he was crazy.
Yeah, he definitely was crazy and did some fucked up shit. But some of the stuff that he came up with, actually, even after the Confucians took over later, they kept some of that stuff because the way it was organized was working out okay.
You got to remember, this is the BC period.
Yeah, this is thousands of years ago.
This is some futuristic shit. Okay. And you didn't see anything like this until the fucking Roman Republic. All right. Which is, that's around this time, but that didn't... A little bit later, actually. That didn't last long. So, no, the Chinese on top of their game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had, like you said, it's almost kind of like a system of checks and balances. You had a civilian guy, you had a military guy, and then you had an inspector who would report on if either of the other two were fucking up, and would also like arbitrate like disputes between them.
Yeah.
And like try to sort it out. And then you had like the civilian guy who got moved around to different places because he didn't want any little coalitions forming that would like I said, like get in the way of his power. So he kept everybody kind of like moving around.
Questioning what they would call federal authority by today.
Yeah, essentially. Right, that's kind of what he was doing.
They're talking about states and the federal authorities, what they're talking about.
Yeah, and it's not that different.
And you got for people who are like in Europe or outside the United States, America is a copy of Rome with some Greco-Roman influences. America is almost kind of like what the system that they're talking here, our system of states. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's not that different.
Very much.
Not
a state governor, state supreme courts, state police, and then state armies, state militias, or National Guard. Same thing. Okay. Well,
and then
the same thing, but okay.
Another thing that he did too was that all of the other warring states that he had taken over, all the members of the royal families, like the royal houses of those taken over states, he made them all move to the capital of Qin, where he was, so he could like keep an eye on them.
Right.
So they wouldn't like fucking fuck him over and stab him in the back.
Is he using them for anything, or they're just staying there?
They're basically just staying there, and he would keep them under surveillance in case they got any ideas.
Senate. He's not using them as a house.
Not that I knew of. I knew of. He just wanted to keep an eye on them, and make sure they weren't up to any shenanigans.
So it's not as advanced as a republic, but okay.
They may have been, but like I said, I just that's kind of what they said. He just made them all move there. Now, a few things that he did that are pretty notable and why he gets brought up a lot in history, not just because of the Terracotta Warriors, but because of some other shit that he did. He was behind a massive extension of the network of canals and roads, which connected all the provinces to one another. So he essentially developed a highway system, which, had been very piecemeal and very kind of sporadic before, but he did kind of like a very unifying, because he wanted to make sure that, that all the different former states could still trade with one another, and, military armies could move around more freely. So he developed a very complicated road system, which had not been done prior. He also economically unified China by standardizing Chinese measurement, like weights and measures, which, like I said, had been, because I kind of feel like that's in the ancient world, and shit, even in Europe, even up until the medieval times, I think, it was just kind of all over the place. You know what I mean? If you said, oh, it's this measurement or whatever, it wasn't standardized from place to place. So he standardized all of that, all the weights and measures. He standardized the currency, and things which you probably don't even think about, but, when you build a cart, he standardized the width of the axles, so that they would all go on the roads.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he did all that kind of stuff. He
civic standardization. And
right, that's
transport.
essentially
So
what he
he's
did.
talking
Like
about,
he codified and unified the legal system, all that. He also unified like the Chinese script because, like I said, much like in Europe up until the Middle Ages, everybody just kind of was like whatever, as long as you kind of like the spelling wasn't standardized and shit like that. So he actually did standardize the script and made it official throughout all of China. So, before, like, I think it was mostly, like, mutually intelligible, but they didn't really have any kind of, like, codified standard script or language or anything like that. So he kind of took care of that.
He's trying to make an empire. He's trying to make a larger civilization.
And you can't really run, an area of that size without having
communication,
some rules and communication, and everybody kind of has to be on the same page.
Right.
So he did do that.
So it's all very good practical thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, he also had pretty much all the previously existing books burned prior to his rule, except for some that were still in the palace archives, and those were mostly stuff about like agriculture, alchemy, things like that. But most of the other books, history, like before he took over, shit like that, he's like, yeah, let's get rid of that. So he burned all that stuff.
Yeah, there may be more to it than
not
that.
Great.
There may be more to it than that. Might have been that the books didn't agree with one another, so therefore everything was fucking, what do you say, everything was in conflict. In other words, you know what I mean? Like you had a bunch of history books, but they all conflicted with one another. And he didn't like what any of that shit said.
Well, they're pretty sure that he just didn't want anybody to have any information that could be used against him.
Maybe, yeah. Could be. I wasn't there. I didn't know the guy.
So he burned a lot of books, and scholars he pretty much executed en masse.
Yeah.
So,
Well, who knows what they were saying?
Don't justify it, Tom.
Well, they might have been speaking out against him or something like that.
Well, maybe they had reason to.
Well, he was a conqueror.
That's what I mean.
But sometimes you got to conquer some shit to build some shit. Destroying and creating is the same act. You have to create this new thing, but it destroys other things, so they don't like it. And you're gonna say, well, you're gonna have to either shut up or I'm gonna kill you. And when I'm gonna shut up, okay, you're dead. But he was probably pretty ruthless. The Chinese were known for being cold-blooded. The rulers were.
Yeah, and even by those standards, like he is actually kind of brought up a lot as being like particularly ruthless. Yeah, but I mean, he wasn't that unusual in that regard.
Yeah.
In this era and stuff, but
yeah, because even the Romans were ruthless. So
yeah, I mean, it's the process of editing.
Although I trust myself around a Roman emperor before a Chinese emperor, if you ask me. I could deal with the Roman emperor. I could speak to his heart. The Chinese, because
Well, thankfully, I'm never going to go back to that time
because
no, thank you.
We get drunk. It's a Western mentality. Anybody from the Western world could understand a Roman. The Chinese were cold-blooded and calculated. They were very much a people of precision. They were very smart. But just read on. You'll see. You'll see what I'm talking about. There's a lot of stuff in Chinese history that is a fucking trip. Okay? They're people, but they're not Western people. They have their own motives, their own ways of looking at things.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, it's not that different. When I read stuff about Asian history, it's all understandable.
Yeah,
it's not that different than shit that went on in the West. It's not that different. I don't.
Japanese stuff from a lot of their feudal history, their feudal periods. Like I could read Miyamoto Musashi. I fucking understand everything he's talking about.
That's what I mean.
And
like I said, I know that for it's probably like less so nowadays, but I kind of feel like for a long time there was this whole east west like kind of thing, but it's like it's not really that different. I can read stuff about Japanese history, Chinese history, stuff like that, and you can understand like there are some cultural differences, but it's not that different. Like you can usually understand the context behind it. You can usually understand.
The difference between West and East is this though. In the West, there was always a thing about compromise. There was a concept of compromise and collaboration. Not so much in the East. The East did not like to compromise. They liked uniformity, singularity. That everything is the same, or like a regimented type lifestyle. They were totalitarian, basically. They just always were. It's like this. It's not like that. You're different than me. You believe different than me, so you have to go. We're not going to meet midway. They were just like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
This.
But like I said, there's people...
Romans weren't like that.
But there's people like that over here, too. Like,
yeah,
it
there's
always
people like
have
that here,
been.
too.
So it's like, it's not that weird.
I guess you could say it's the ruling class and the overarching...
Right.
The overarching cultures were very different. The West always, going back to ancient Greece and ancient Greece, just ask me, I'm the most ancient of all Mississippian Greeks. Okay, Thomas Rossalopoulos. Okay,
For Christ's sake.
The Greek.
What are you even talking about?
The Greeks. Greece was the fucking cradle of the Western civilization, and they were philosophers. They were about, let's meet some shit halfway. Yeah, there's truth and there's falsehood, but
But let's discuss it, and we'll figure some shit out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
We don't got to kill each other.
Exactly.
I mean, they did, but
they did, but let's find some cool shit, and it'll all be good.
But the ideal was let's try not to do that.
Yeah, it was the ideal. The ideal was pluralism.
Yeah.
We can be different, but we can still fucking do some cool shit together. That's not the way the East was. The East was you obey. It's gonna be like this. You know what I mean? They were.
I don't work well in that.
They
kind
were
of
very
system.
authoritarian. Okay.
I don't work well in authority.
And we will all be the same. Very much uniformity. Okay. Now, and the Japanese being the least of that. Although, no, I backed that off. The Koreans. When I lived in Korea, the Koreans are kind of like the Latins of the Eastern people. Koreans are a little more hot-blooded than the Japanese. But the Koreans and the Japanese, they're a little more free-spirited compared to, say, especially these ancient Chinese. These ancient Chinese, boy, they were fucking tough, bro. They didn't play.
Yeah, well, I mean, even by Western standards. And like I said, even, I don't know.
They were very military. It's like a very military-minded.
But like regimented.
Very regimented,
like
military,
you said,
disciplined, authoritarian. That's what you're talking about there. Right.
But like I said,
and I'm a military man. But the military existence is for select few people in the West. Not every Westerner can do what I do. All right? I have a special place in the culture. In Eastern culture, it's all regimented. Everybody. You know, civilian and military, it's about the same.
See, like I said, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah, you wouldn't like it.
No, I don't like anything that has to do with like hierarchies or authoritarianism or anything.
Yeah,
Because I don't like being told what to do. I like to be left to my own devices and because I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not doing anything fucked up or anything like that. So just like
that's a very Western
leave
attitude.
me the fuck alone.
That's a very Western attitude. Very Western. Which I understand it. I'm like that too. But it's a very Western attitude.
Tammy said, "Oh my God, we need a T-shirt with Tom looking like an ancient Roman with laurel wreath and toga."
I already got one.
Didn't I make you?
You made one.
A birthday card one year?
It was me on a Roman coin with a.
That's right. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
When it was a long time ago. I made like I photoshopped like a Roman coin with Tom's face on it, but he had like the wreath and everything.
Thomas Rossalopoulos.
Yeah. I did that, and one year, this was a few years ago.
She did one of me as a communist premier.
That's what I was gonna say. I did a birthday card. I made him a birthday card one year because, like I said, I'm a graphic designer. I made him a birthday card one year that was him because I had this great photo of him like looking all with his chin up and everything like that. And I said, man, I'm gonna make like a communist propaganda poster out of that. So I made like he was Lenin or some shit.
Yeah.
So I made something that looked like that. It was so epic. I think I still have it somewhere.
Yeah.
It looks so good.
I might have it on YouTube or on Facebook.
I think I still have that file someplace.
You gotta use that shit on the show.
We should make a shirt with that on it because I actually was really proud of that design.
Yeah,
I thought it came out really nice. I'm sure I still have it. I keep pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Hey, I pay for Dropbox to have like unlimited fucking storage, so I keep everything because you never know when you're gonna need it.
Yeah.
So while he was in, he burned all the books and executed the scholars like we were talking about. He also continued the military expansion, started like annexing some regions to the south, and then there was like a bunch of sort of like nomadic tribes to the north, and he kept like fighting them and shit. Now he eventually kind of like defeated them, sort of, but he didn't want the tribes coming at his like northern face any longer. So what he decided to do was he started building a big ass wall. Now I know you're thinking that it's the Great Wall of China. Kinda. It's like the proto Great Wall of China. Because prior to this, there were other like defensive walls. Like each state kind of had their own little thing where they're kind of like, hey, you stay over there. Like we'll build a, good fences make good neighbors kind of thing. So what he tried to do was make a wall that sort of like, linked all of those previous walls together. So he was like making one big one. And like I said, I read a couple things that said, oh, was the Great Wall of China. No, it's not. It was like the proto-Great Wall of China. It was the same idea, but it was like in a little bit different area. And honestly, he only built it over like 10 years, so it was kind of like a little bit of a bullshit wall, and I don't think any of it still exists.
They wanted to see the coin and the communist picture.
Oh, he still has it.
I had it on.
Thomistocles.
Thomistocles.
That's right. That's right. I forgot what name.
Thomistocles. Okay, I'll show you the communist one. There's the communist one. Hold on.
Oh, he found it. He found it. Yeah. I mean, it had wording on it too, but
yeah, I got it. I think I got the one.
I can't remember what the wording. Yeah, it had a hammer and sickle and everything like that. Because I did like the whole. Because I have it someplace.
Yeah.
Because I love all that communist propaganda art. I love that look. I know it was very, very big in the 80s. Like all of that kind of look. But I love the aesthetic of that. So I made him a card because I thought that'd be super funny.
They're all in there laughing.
I took that picture. I took that picture of you when we went to that house for you to do that video shoot. You remember that?
They're all laughing.
And you were pretending to be, and I said, and I was going to take a picture. I said, pretend to be an actor.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm an actor.
Yeah.
And I took the picture, and then like later when I was making the comedy picture, I'm like, oh my god, that's like perfect.
Yeah, we were looking at it, and I go, I look like a comic.
And I was like,
yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm gonna take that and run with it, bitch.
Me is Themistocles. Themistocles.
That's right. I don't even remember like why I ended up making that, but. And why it was some bullshit we were talking about, because like we always like talk about some bullshit. We were talking about
some shit, yeah.
And then like later on, I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna make that. So yeah. So like some days like I was farting around at work and like I made that like in about fucking 15 minutes. Themistocles. I'm gonna start talking and I'm gonna start calling.
That's my Roman. That's my fucking Greek name, Themistocles.
Themistocles. Well, I think I thought of that because
Themistocles Rossoopolis.
Because I remember like seeing a comedian a long time ago that said when there was any ancient Greece called testicles.
Yeah.
So I think I was thinking of that. So I was thinking like Thomas, but also like testicles.
I was making a video or something, but I made that music video.
Yeah.
When we did that.
That Birthday Massacre one.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't actual Birthday Massacre. It was like we knew these two guys that were video directors. And they were entering a contest, like the Birthday Massacre, this was like years ago. And they had a contest where fans could submit videos. And they wanted to make one. And they asked Tom to be in it as like the villain. So we had to go to this house one day. It was him and like our friend Ari. She was like the girl in it. It was like an Alice in Wonderland type situation. And she kind of looked like that. And so they did that, but like Tom was the villain. He had like a sword. I don't remember what the story was, but yeah. So we went to this house and we were there all day where they were shooting this video, and that's when I took that picture. I took the picture of him outside, and I told him I was like, "Ooh, you're gonna be like an actor." I said pose like an actor, and so that's what he did. And then I made the comic art out of it. I don't know. I thought it was funny. Anyway, let's see. Tammy said I would definitely buy those shirts. I don't remember like that. Probably I don't remember how big that coin file is. I feel like it's probably small, but I could remake that like pretty easily because I still have that picture of him. I mean that I could do that in like 20 minutes. So yeah. So at this point, yeah, he builds like the proto Great Wall of China. I mean the actual Great Wall of China was built during the Ming Dynasty, right? And at that point, like China had like twice as many people as it had like back when Emperor Qin was doing his thing, and it took like about 100 years to build the actual Great Wall, which is still there, whereas his wall was more like a 10 years, so it was kind of a little bit janky. Like I said, I don't think it's there's not much of it left anymore. So and it was like not in the same spot either. It was like farther away. So now later in his life, we talked about this. I thought this was like really interesting. So Qin.
Do you want some ice in that?
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of like cooled.
it turned
It
into
kind of like
syrup.
warmed up. It's still good though,
Is it?
but it's not cold anymore. So later on in his life, Qin Shi Huang, he was really, really afraid of death, like I said. So he kind of wanted to be one of those motherfuckers that wanted to live forever. So one of the sort of quests that consumed him during the last part of his life was that he was looking for essentially an elixir of immortality. And he spent several of his last years like doing this kind of stuff. And because he was so afraid of death and because he was so convinced that there was an immortality elixir out there somewhere, he probably fell for a lot of like snake oil salesmen and like bullshitters who were kind of like, oh yeah, I've totally got this here, buy this from me for whatever. So yeah, he probably fell for that kind of stuff. He went to this one place called Zifu Island. Zifu Island? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Like I said, I know I'm going to butcher all these names and I'm sorry about that. But he went there because he thought that would make him live forever. So one of the things that he did, like later on in his life, so there's a guy named Zhufu, and he was from this island, which was supposedly some mystical place where like immortality happened or whatever. So he sends Zhufu and a bunch of ships with a whole bunch of people on them. And they're looking for this mountain, which I think is called Penglai. And they were looking for this dude named Anki Sheng, who was a 1,000-year-old magician. Now, Qin...
They're looking for Merlin.
Yeah. Qin claimed
Yeah.
that he had met this motherfucker before.
Okay.
And he told him like some mystical shit like, if you want immortality, come find me here, my son, blah, blah, blah. So he thought, so he's going to go look for him, right? So he didn't go, but he sent like this boat full of like 100 of like men and women and this other person, like this guy from Zifu Island, to look for them. And those motherfuckers never came back. Now, nobody knows if they just like, you know, died in a shipwreck or if they got there and there wasn't fuck all there and they're just like, well, shit, we can't go back or we'll get executed, which is probably like the more likely scenario. Legend says, though, that they actually got to Japan and colonized it. That's how the legend goes, that's where the first colonizers from Japan came from. Now, there's also kind of a thing where, you know, like all the books he burned and all the scholars that he, you know, executed. Some have speculated that that might have happened, like that the executed scholars were actually people that he had summoned there to get immortality. Like he was asking them to do like some supernatural shit and they couldn't do it. So some people have said that maybe that was why he killed them. Maybe. Because he was really scared of death. He was really scared of evil spirits. And it's also rumored that underneath his, he had a whole bunch of palaces and that he had a whole bunch of like tunnels and passageways and shit like that, like in between all the palaces, so he could go in between so the evil spirits couldn't get him. Yeah. So like I said, he was scared of everything.
The evil spirits he's talking about are the slain enemy Chinese.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about. He killed a bunch of people. He feels guilty for it. He thinks their souls are after him. Like I said, for a people of such precision, all right, they were still very much into the paranormal, in the spirit world, which is why the communist Chinese have banned it so much, because I think that's their weakness. Because they saw that over and over again. What's he worried about them for? Well, he has a conscience. They didn't have psychologists that could come in and talk to him. Say, yeah, this was goal-directed violence. You did what you had to do to unify the country. A bunch of people died. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people fucking died. You didn't expect them to die.
Gotta break a few eggs.
You gotta break a few eggs, and that's how it goes sometimes. But if you gotta look at history, man, all of history's like that. Not really on you. This is all part of nature. You know what I mean? So you couldn't talk him out of that. So he thought the dead souls were after him. Okay?
Yeah.
Which is understandable. And he didn't have anybody to talk to. Okay?
Yeah.
And there was probably no man that he knew of that was like him that had come before him. So he thought he had broken that he broke it. That he broke it. You know? I thought he broke it. You know, shit, I broke it. They come to get me. That's what's happened.
Yeah.
I could put myself in his shoes.
I mean, that makes total sense to me,
Yeah.
like, in the context of the time. You would
Right.
probably think that.
Yeah.
And like you said, you know, nowadays you just be like, oh, the dude had a conscience. Like, maybe he actually felt bad that he killed all his people.
Well, he did. I'm sure he did.
But he wouldn't admit it, or he didn't realize
There's nothing
it.
he could have done.
Or something like that. And so it manifested itself as like a supernatural, oh, they're coming to get me after.
Well, they believed in that
after I
stuff.
die. Right. That's
so
what I mean.
It made
so
that
it made
even
total
bigger.
sense. It made total sense.
You don't have a religion that's you don't have a fucking Judeo-Christian Yahweh-based religion where there's a God in heaven that controls heaven. He created you. Your people chose him as a God. And you could atone for sin and be forgiven and find salvation. There's none of that. There's just an afterlife. And there's nobody in charge of that. There's no centralized God. So what you're dealing with is the living world is a jungle. Nobody runs the jungle. It's a fight for survival. Turns out you're the biggest tiger in the jungle, but you've made a lot of enemies. When you die, you go into the heaven and the afterlife, and it's another jungle. And you better bring your army with you, because all your enemies are waiting for you over there. Yeah, that's what's happened. That's what's happened. Because in a Judeo-Christian type mindset, when you say heaven, you're thinking of, the God, the devils, there's heavens and hells. When you go to heaven, God's in charge of heaven, you're not at risk. Well, in the Chinese mind, you go to heaven and nobody runs the motherfucker. It's just another general. It's just another jungle. So you better be ready. That's what he's talking about. Think about it.
I kind of feel like a lot of ancient cultures had that kind of belief because, well, that's kind of why. Well, yeah, but that's why you see stuff like the ancient Egyptians, like the pharaohs, were buried with all kind of like shit.
No, they
not
were,
armies, but everybody kind of believed that more of the same was going on after.
Actually, Judeo-Christian religions are a copy of the ancient Egyptian ones. You go, you die, you're judged by Anubis in your heart against the weight of a feather. And if you're guilty or not, if you're guilty, then you go to either Sheol or you go into the underworld, which is hell, or you go to heaven. But when you go to heaven, Amun is in heaven, and Osiris. There's a hierarchy. There's a God hierarchy that runs heaven. You don't run heaven, and heaven isn't the wild jungle. So no, different. They went to the little fucking afterlife and into the city of the dead. They had little comforts with them, but that was to help them in the afterlife. That was just like their living quarters and shit, and the little bows that they would need to hunt animals in the happy hunting ground. They didn't bring any war material there, so there was peace in Egyptian heaven. Think about it. They didn't bring any war material.
No, but what I was saying was that the ancients largely, you know, at least the powerful ones, you know, they assumed that whatever was going on in your life, you would need some of that shit, like in the afterlife. So a lot of them were buried with it. That's all I was saying.
Okay. What I thought you meant that the Egyptian heaven was chaos. No. Egyptian heaven was peace.
You went on a totally different. I didn't mean any of that.
I've been drinking.
Yeah. You hear things that I don't say.
In the Chinese version in the Chinese cosmology, heaven was just another place. It was a jungle over there too. In the ancient Egyptian heaven was being ruled by Amun or Atun, and then maybe his son, which would have been, fucking Horus, the risen Osiris. Okay, depending on what, because there was about 3 or 4 different versions of the Egyptian religion as it evolved, But no, there was peace in Egyptian heaven. It was a lot like the Christian heaven. The Christian heaven was based on it. Same with the Islamic heaven. It's based on the Egyptian version of it. There's a ruler of heaven, and when you go there, you're taken care of. It's going to be okay. You might have to hunt. You might need some fucking acrobats to entertain you, some television to watch. You might need some food, you know what I mean? Some spiritual food. But your enemies can't fuck with you over there because the governor will get him. That's, That's the world you're talking about.
Yeah, in my tomb, I just want like a whole bunch of books and like some like some cookies.
Right. Yeah.
And a coffee pot. No, I'm good. So yeah. So the emperor died in September of 210 BCE. Now he was actually when he died. This is a hilarious story. I mean, it's grotesque, but I thought it was funny because that's my sense of humor. So he's on a tour of Eastern China, and he's looking for, like I said, he's real into this immortality shit. So he's looking for this place called the Islands of the Immortals, which obviously doesn't exist, but he thinks that it's around somewhere, so he's looking for it. But while he's on this tour looking for it, he dies. I believe he was only 49 or 50 years old. Reportedly, what most people think that he died of, they're not entirely sure because, like I said, this was a long time ago, but they think what he died of was mercury poisoning, because in the ancient times, because mercury is like so cool and so pretty and everything like that, he thought that taking mercury pills or drinking a little bit of mercury, that was going to make him live forever.
Well, it wasn't just him. A lot of people thought
that. Yeah, well, yeah, like a lot of people thought that. Like I said, like that was kind of like common thinking back in the time.
He was taking, that was the HRT of the time.
Ironically, that made you live much less time.
And drove you insane.
That too.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah.
So, nobody knows for sure if that's what he died of, but I kind of suspect that's what
he was fucking crazy. They had evidently the ability to take mercury and make it into a little black ball that you could chew and eat. And he was eating that.
Look how pretty it is. There's no way it could be bad or poisonous.
Think about it. It was a metal, but it was liquid. If you were to put it into a big bathtub, you could get on top of it and float around and do crazy shit on it. It was definitely, from their point of view, paranormal.
Well, yeah. I mean, even nowadays, it kind of seems like pretty weird when you see it in action.
You could have it touch other metals, and it would disintegrate those metals, just absorb them. I think there's a couple. I think it can do that to gold. I don't remember what it is. There's some other, or lead. Mercury can touch some of those metals, and then it makes that metal vanish. So you're seeing magic before your eyes. So therefore, if you eat it, you can live forever.
Makes total sense.
Makes total sense.
Pro tip.
Yeah.
Do not drink mercury to live forever.
No, don't drink mercury.
It won't end well.
The only thing worse would be to drink uranium. Okay? Don't drink that shit.
Please don't.
Your kidneys have no way of getting that out of your system. And it goes into your brain and causes your frickin' brain to do some crazy ass shit. But evidently, Sherwan D in his final years was incoherent and hallucinating most of the time.
And like I said, he didn't live till very long.
Nah.
I think he died when he was 49. He was 49.
Yeah.
Which is my age right now.
Yeah.
So.
They had not yet.
I'm not drinking mercury either.
They had not yet discovered testosterone in hair dye. You could have fucking made him feel like he was living forever if you could keep his hair dyed fucking black.
Or, skin moisturizer.
And fucking bump him up with some test. He'd be great till he's 70. Fucking still bouncing. Fucking, look at my abs. I'm 73. I'm going to live forever. Well, no, but you'll have a good quality of life.
Tom has to inject testosterone into every single show.
I inject the testosterone into everything. I'm here to support men's health.
And we're supporting men's health by saying, please don't drink mercury.
Don't drink mercury. Don't drink mercury.
Shouldn't have to be
Inject testosterone.
But you don't really know. Yeah. I mean, you don't really know what stupid shit people will do. Seriously, don't drink mercury. I know it's pretty, but don't drink it.
Okay, so now he dies.
He dies. So wait.
Now we're into the fucking second
Okay, but wait. This is a great story.
Okay, all right.
After he died.
Okay.
So remember I mentioned his prime minister a while back called Li Si? Now, so because the emperor dies like while they're on tour.
Yeah.
Li Si thinks to himself, shit, I can't really tell anybody that he died because there's going to be like a big uprising. He wasn't like a super popular guy. Like there was a lot of like a lot of people were resentful.
He ruled by fear.
That's what I'm saying. So a lot of people were kind of like, so he's like, well, shit, we can't tell anybody about this. And it's like, and it's going to take us 2 more months to get back to where we were going. So he's like, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to tell anybody, even in the entourage that was going back. We're not going to tell anybody that he died. So much so that the prime minister would go into the wagon where the emperor's body was and pretend to be like consulting with him on some shit. Now they said this only worked because the emperor was kind of secretive to start with, so like people didn't. It wasn't weird like for people not to see him for several days. Well, no, I'm getting into that. Just give me a minute.
All right.
And another thing, the prime minister, this is pretty genius. Prime minister, like he thought of that. He's like, oh my god, this shit's gonna stink. Like after a couple days. Yeah. So he's like, okay, what we need to do is we're gonna have like this big cart full of fish. Yeah. In front of and behind the emperor's cart. Yeah. So that if anybody's like, what's that fucking stink? It's the fish, bro. Yeah. It's not the rotting body that we're carrying around for 2 months.
But he had to sit in there with that shit. He had to sit in the body. He had to sit in there for 2 months.
He had to go in there and pretend he was talking to the dude.
Damn.
I don't know why I thought that was so funny, but I was just kind of like, that is so grotesque and terrible, and yet still hilarious. Yeah. That just made me laugh so hard. I'm like, oh my god, I have to put that in there. That's so fucking funny. So they made it back after 2 months, and then of course they had to report the death. He's like, he's been dead the whole time. Wah wah. It was like that kind of situation. Now, so while he was alive, the emperor obviously was, since he was terrified of death, he didn't like to talk about death, so he didn't have a will. What ended up happening after he died was that the prime minister, Li Si, and the chief eunuch, I love that they used to have a chief eunuch. Yeah. Whose name was Zhao Gao? Yeah. Like I said, I'm sure I'm butchering these names, so I apologize.
Before you go on.
What?
Because you mentioned the eunuchs. Eunuchs played a big part in Chinese history. When I talk about Zheng He, the guy who fucking ran that naval expedition and did fantastic things, even went to Europe in steamships back in the 1500s, he was a eunuch. There were a lot of eunuchs in China. They were like if you know the Dune universe, they were like the mentats of the Chinese. They were like the laptops. You're a smart motherfucker. You could buy them, you could train them and educate them up, and they would help you run your country. And you could trust them around your women because there's no way they could get a woman pregnant.
They couldn't do anything. They could just kind of lay on her and hump.
Well, evidently, she's laughing. Evidently, the fucking eunuchs had female fans.
I can see that.
That fucking loved them. But what the deal was is, evidently, their owners didn't care if they had sex with women or not. They just wanted to make sure that there was no way they could sire offspring.
Right.
So they could not.
That was all.
That's all it was. That way they could not. Your children were always going to be yours, not his. That's all it meant. That way, whoever ended up on the throne was your son and not your right-hand man's son. But a eunuch was usually your right-hand man. He was the one running the fucking show. Kind of like your laptop, your AI laptop. So a lot of the most powerful people in China in this period of history lasted a long time, centuries, were eunuchs. And it was a proud position.
Yeah. Well, I said, they had a chief eunuch. Yeah. And this guy was like way up in the thing because the prime minister, who is kind of in charge because now the emperor died. Yeah. So him and the chief eunuch, they get together and they talk to the emperor's, one of the emperor's sons, Hu Hai, and they said, hey, you need to like forge a will for your dad. So they did. Now, another one of the emperor's sons, Fusu, they made him commit suicide. You know, not cool. Took away, like, there was another guy that was a big supporter of Fusu, the son, who had like a whole bunch of troops, and they took away his command, and then they killed his entire family. So, you know, nice. So Hu Hai, the son, he ended up becoming the second emperor, and he became known later as Qin Shi, or Shi. So we'll just call him Fusu, though, because that's easier to pronounce. Now, you mentioned earlier that this particular reign of this emperor, the first emperor of China, didn't last too long after his death. I think it lasted like 4 years, and then it started collapsing. Yeah. And I think it was because, well, his son took over, because, like I said, they forged the will, because there wasn't one. Now, the thing about Fusu, the son, was that he was kind of, I don't think he was a fuck up. It was just he wasn't like, he didn't have the same thing that his dad had. So when he comes in, and I think like a lot of resentments against his dad kind of boiled over, and he didn't really have the intestinal fortitude to fight it. So a bunch of revolts started happening. So he's in, like, a whole bunch of civil unrest is going on. Everything that the first emperor had done, like, kind of started falling apart, at least for a short period. The imperial palace got burned. Like, a lot of state archives were burned. And historians nowadays are, like, freaking out about that because they're like, Jesus Christ. It's like, you know, it's bad enough that, you know, the emperor, like, burned all the fucking books, but then, like, the shit afterward, like, a bunch more shit was burned, so there's hardly anything left from that time period. The palace archives survived, but not much else. So basically, within about 4 years of the emperor dying, his son also died, and that dynasty pretty much came to an end. So that was very, very short-lived. Like, all the shit that he did, like, pretty much fell apart, like, right after he died, because there were so many revolts and stuff like that. So basically, after the son died, they come out, like, back into essentially what was going on before. You had, like, all these kind of, like, powerful families, and they're, like, all warring against one another. Strongest ones come into power, you know. It's just kind of like the next dynasty of emperors, like, comes along. Yeah. And the next Chinese dynasty, which was the Han dynasty, actually got rid of legalism, which was the philosophy that the first emperor was, like, worked on in favor of Confucianism. And they kept some of his shit, but moderated with some other stuff. And, you know, that's kind of, like, just the way it kind of went after there. Now let's talk about his mausoleum.
Yeah. Now we're getting to the show.
I mean, well, it's been the show.
Now
I called the show, like, the emperor.
Giving the background, so you know, okay, yeah.
Yeah, the guy that...
So you understand the significance of all this
the context of, like, why it was built and shit like that. So he gets buried in his mausoleum. Now, his mausoleum was actually started to be constructed, like, when he first kind of, like, he didn't come to power because he was only 13, but they started building it then. So it took, like, 38 years, and they actually didn't finish it. I think they didn't finish it until, like, a few years after he was dead. So it took, like, a really, really long time. We're talking about, like, from when he was 13 to, I think, 4 years after he died. So I think it took, like, 38, 40 years, something like that, like, to build, because it's a massive, massive complex, of which the Terracotta warriors are just, like, kind of a small part of it. So, yeah, the thing about it is that I think, obviously, like, scholars kind of knew about it because it had been written about, but nobody could see it because it was buried. And they didn't really find it. Like, it was pretty much buried underground for more than 2,000 years. What ended up happening was that in March of 1974, there was a bunch of farmers, like, a little group of farmers, like, I think it was, like, a dad and his sons or something like that. And they were digging a well, a little bit, like, about a mile, like, east of the tomb mound, because there's a mound there. It's like a earth mound. It kind of looks like a pyramid, but, like, with a flat top, kind of. So they start digging a well there, and because there's, like, a whole bunch of underground springs and stuff. Now, they kind of suspected, like, archaeologists have, like, kind of suspected there might be something there, because they thought, yeah, it's probably, like, a tomb complex. And over the centuries, like, little pieces of, like terracotta pieces, like roof tiles, little pieces of stuff, like, kept turning up. So, like, oh, maybe there's something interesting in there, but nobody had really done any excavation.
Sexbot, take them out, people. Take them out.
Yeah, because I can't do it from here. Yeah. But yeah, so people suspected there might be something there, but nobody really thought that much about it. But what ended up happening was that these farmers kind of busted through and they found, like, a couple of what looked like statues of people that were made of terracotta. And they're like, oh, these are interesting. So they bring them to some local officials, and then, you know, archaeologists in the area kind of got really interested. So they're like, we're going to go, like, fucking check this out. So as I said, the Terracotta Army, like, after they started digging and they're like, holy shit, this place is fucking massive. But it's part of, like, a much bigger, it's essentially like a necropolis is what it is. The inner city part is about 1.5 miles, and then, like, the outer one is almost, like, 4 miles. So it's, like, a massive, massive area. Now, the main tomb, which supposedly contains the emperor and among many other things, and like I said, there's a lot of stories about what might be in there, they haven't really opened it. Like I said, they've excavated about 1% of it, but at this point, they're kind of, like, being really kind of, like, cautious about getting in there because they don't know, because of the mercury and all this other stuff. They don't really know what they're going to find in there, and they don't really want to fuck it up. So they're just kind of going about it really slowly. They don't know if it is still intact, if it's been looted. They don't really know at this point. The legend says that it was sealed with molten copper. I don't know if that's true or not. So the necropolis complex, pretty much what they think it looks like is that it was like a microcosm of his empire and his palace. Like the tomb mound would be at the center, and then there'd be like walls, like inner outer walls, outside of the tomb mound, and then like there'd be like a bunch of pits, which is what they have found. Like the pits have both inside and out the walls. Those are the ones that have the terracotta soldiers in them. Now inside the inner wall was a pit that had like all those bronze chariots and like the horses in there. And then in the inner wall, they found like these terracotta figures of like bureaucrats and courtiers and stuff like that. Because like I said, they're not all soldiers. Most of them were infantry soldiers. But there are like other figures. There's musicians. There's like guys playing like fucking violins or whatever. There's all kind of like acrobats. There's all kind of stuff in there. Now, so and strongmen. They have like strongmen too, which I thought was really funny.
Now, being ex-infantry myself, I'll tell you that what was portrayed out of the Terracotta army is an entire army. It's the army and the entertainment segment and the horses and everything. Okay. It's everything you would want to have with you if you were in this time period in the army. So, yeah, well thought out. Well thought out.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of work that went into this, I know it took a really long time. Like I said, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to die soon, like build this shit. Right. They started building it when he was like a 13-year-old kid. Yeah. And didn't finish it until after he was
It would be
dead.
the equivalent of its army with the television and all of its fucking entertainment and its food and its fucking horses and transportation, like jeeps for your officers. That's what it is.
There's animals in there too.
There's animals, yeah.
There's cranes. There's ducks, swans, all kind of shit.
Well, they ate those.
But I mean, they're all they made like bronze figures of them in there, like next to the musicians. It's like I said, it's like an entertainment.
It's just everything you would want.
Yeah,
because you don't want your soldiers to experience hardship and deprivation in the afterlife. So anything that they would want on the battlefield for R&R, rest and relaxation, they got it. That's what this is. It's just an ancient way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, they found a mass burial ground for a lot of the laborers who worked on the complex and who died during... Because a lot of people died building this. Like I said, it took a long time to make it, and I'm sure it was very labor-intensive. And a lot of people were kind of conscripted to work on it. You kind of had to work on it, or, that was kind of all there was to do. So, yeah, a lot of people did die. So there's, like, big mass graves for all the people that died working on it.
Well, they worked on it for a long time. People are going to die.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, this is over like a 38, 40-year period that they worked on this. Cause
it's probably probably just like the pyramids, a privilege to work on it and a privilege to be buried on the site. Because that meant your soul also would be there in heaven with all these people. Yeah. So, yeah. They used to say that, the pyramids were built by slaves and this and that. No. They were built by artisans that wanted to do this and professionals that they wanted to do this. And this was their ticket into heaven and to be set up in heaven. That's why you worked on these projects. It'd be the same with the Chinese. When you look at that craftsmanship, that's not slaves. That's people that wanted to do that shit. This is their ticket into heaven to do this. So they believe in what they're doing. You may not believe in it, but they believe in it.
Well, yeah, they might have. Largely.
Oh, I know they did. Yeah.
But, so like I said, they haven't really gone too much into the tomb itself, but they have done some, non-invasive, explorations of the site. They found, the underground palace, what they think is the underground palace, in the middle of the mound. They've done, an archaeological survey of it and, a magnetic kind of study of it. And they think what they see underneath the mound, I don't think they've gone in there physically, But what they see underneath the mound, it's a 13-foot high perimeter wall made of brick. And that's supposed to be like, because like I said, it was like a microcosm of his palace and his empire that they built like kind of in miniature in this sort of necropolis. So there's a 13-foot high wall, and that's, you know, bricks. And that's supposed to be like the kind of the wall of the underground palace. And then there's another like kind of wall that's made of like packed earth that's about 115 feet high. And then you have kind of like these sloping passageways going up to, you know, the walls. And then you have all these passages that go to the pits. And that's what, like, the pits are where kind of like the chariots and the horses and like the soldiers and stuff like that. So the tomb chamber, where they assume that the body is, they don't really know. But the tomb chamber is about 260 feet long and 16 feet wide and about 50 feet high. So they can determine that without digging into it. Now, why people are so fascinated with the tomb is that there was a guy, a historian, named Xi'an, I guess is how you would pronounce that. I'm not entirely sure.
I can't see it.
It's
How you spell it?
Simaquian.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
Xi'an, yeah. Like you know anybody.
That's a hard one. No, I do understand a lot of their pronunciation.
But yeah.
But the way they fucking write that shit out in our characters sometimes can be very, very fucking confusing.
Well, yeah. Now, he wrote about the tomb complex, like, not even 100 years after the emperor actually died. And he said all kind of cool shit was in there. He said, and I think you brought this up before, there's a whole map of like the heavens in there.
Yeah.
With all the stars, like with pearls, like for each of the stars. I don't know.
Okay.
But he wrote about it. It hadn't been 100 years since he died, so maybe he did see it. I don't know. See it.
Okay.
Because, you know, it was possible.
Or there were people that built it that told him what was in there.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know if he saw it like firsthand.
Right.
But yeah, he said there was like these big like celestial maps and the stars all were like pearls.
Okay.
And he said on the floor of the tomb, and this is what you were talking about before, there's a big map of China.
Yeah.
And the rivers were all mercury.
Yeah.
So like all the like the Yangtze and the Yellow River and all that, it was all like with like mercury, like they made it like a big map but like a 3D map.
Yeah, and all the water was mercury.
Yeah.
And evidently the source that I heard said that it was designed that the mercury flowed like water.
Yeah.
So there must have been a way that it was pumping. Which, man, how the hell did they do that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And evidently it was designed to last forever. So you're talking about almost something kind of like a perpetual motion machine.
That's what I was
Now you
thinking.
have water clocks that can do that. Maybe they made something kind of like a mercury clock.
Yeah,
that
possible.
had a pendulum that swung, that pumped water, or excuse me, a pendulum that swung and pumped mercury, you know, somehow through this system. And then another thing that was mentioned from the source that I remember hearing, this is decades ago, that it was lit by gas lamps, I guess. Depends on the description. But gas lamps that burn forever? That's a tall order.
Yeah.
What are they talking about? Are they talking about natural gas? Natural gas could do that for fucking tens of thousands of years.
Yeah, that's
hundreds
not
of
crazy.
thousands
That's
of
not
years.
Crazy.
So it's not as crazy as it sounds. But what happens to the soot from the natural gas over fucking 2,000 years? Is it entirely blackened in there now? There couldn't be any ventilation. And then what happens to the oxygen? Without oxygen, flames can't burn. Did the Chinese know this? This is why I want fucking them bitches to go in there and look.
Get in there. Well, like I said, they
see
are
what the condition
working
is.
on it. Like I said, but they don't want to fuck it up.
The Chinese
Probably for those very reasons. They're like,
Yeah.
we really don't want to like just poke a hole in the side of the mound and then
Right.
like air gets in there and it destroys everything was in there before you even get to
I
see
mean,
it.
it's kind of plausible that the Chinese knew that without air, that a flame cannot burn. They would have fucking tried that.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a pretty self-evident
Right.
thing that they would have figured out a long time.
So, is there a way to somehow get oxygen in there? to let the lighting work. What are they talking about? You know, I'm dying for them to go in there and see what it looks like in there.
I mean, I love the idea. Like, I know mercury is poisonous and everything,
Yeah.
but I do love the idea of like the mercury rivers. But I think I'm more enchanted with the idea of like the celestial map with the pearls.
Yeah.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope that's true.
And evidently Sherwandi's concubines were buried alive in there with him in cells.
Yeah, I heard that as well.
They evidently had cells that they put.
Well,
in.
now they know they buried some real horses in there, but
Yeah.
because they did find that, but I don't know if they've gone in here.
But did they kill the horses before they buried them?
See, I don't know. I don't know.
The way I heard it is that they put a bunch of people in there alive in cells, and then sealed the tomb up.
That sounds like some shit. Well, the Egyptians did that too.
Did they? I didn't know they did that.
Well, yeah. They had like, hey, let's put your slaves in there. It's like, hey, travel with them to the afterlife. Bye.
I didn't know that. I know the Vikings did that kind of shit. I didn't know the Egyptians did that.
They did, yeah.
Okay.
So, like I said, it's not crazy. So, yeah. So maybe some of that shit is in there because it should be said that when the historian, when he said about the Mercury rivers, and everyone was like, wow, that sounds fantastic. We're not sure if that's true or not. But when they've done like samples of the soil and everything like that, they're like, holy crap, there's like a fuck ton of like mercury in there. So like maybe he was on to something. Like maybe he's not crazy because they have done like chemical breakdowns of that.
I remember seeing an analysis, this is a long time ago, back in the 90s, of where on the top of that burial mound they did a bunch of samples all over it, like in a grid pattern. And the high mercury content and the low mercury content formed an image that looked like a fucking map of the China that he ruled.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I'd go that far, but they said they did find like a very high concentration of mercury like in there. So they think that probably he was
because mercury
on
does
something.
kind of give off some gases.
Yeah.
See, and evidently it might have went up through the ceiling, and they did the test, and they were like, yeah, there might be something underneath there, kind of shaped like the map of China, made out of fucking mercury.
Yeah,
They just need to go down in there and see.
I mean, they kind of think that that's probably plausible. They weren't sure before, but once they did all the sampling and they're like, yeah, there's a fuck ton of mercury like in the soil there, so maybe he was telling the truth.
Based on swords and carriages and things made out of metal and bronze and, you know, they made... These guys were good, man. Real good. You look at the shit that they made, it looks like it was made today by a computer and a robot. They could make something out of metal that was fucking just precision. Beautiful. And it didn't look like it was difficult for them to make it. It was like very artistic. Smooth flowing lines, straight lines when it had to be straight. The proportions were just perfect. 2,000 years ago. And it looked like something made in the 20th.
Like I said, they weren't dumb.
Yeah, it looked like something made in the 20th or 21st century, you know. So it doesn't shock me to think that they could do something like make a fucking pendulum running on mercury as a perpetual motion machine to keep mercury flowing across the map of China. And weird shit like that, you know. And traps, you know. Fucking Indiana Jones style fucking traps that if you try to break in through this side, the fucking wall collapses on you, or arrows shoot out at you, you know. Wouldn't surprise me. And perpetual lighting, gas lighting.
I don't think they found anything like that, but they did find, because the historian said that when they were building the complex, that they had reached the groundwater level. Now they know at that point, in that area, the water table is about 100 feet, 98 feet, something like that.
Yeah.
So, but the thing about it is they think the complex has a really, really good, they found in 2000, they found a dam in there and like a really, really good drainage system, because they're like, there's no evidence that there was any flooding in there, but it does look like it was deep enough to get down to the water table, but they essentially like found some way of like getting the floodwaters out of there. So they had some kind of like drainage system.
The tomb has a way to drain water.
Yes.
Okay.
They have found that.
All right.
So
they were thinking. They were thinking about everything.
Yeah. They've also excavated the outside like of the palace that's in the tomb. there's a whole bunch of other houses, like little houses around the palace, like 18 of them, and a big main building that overlooks those houses. And so archaeologists have been kind of slowly going into like excavating those. So they have found like a bunch of roads, a bunch of like gates and walls and shit like that, some brickwork. So they have been like working on it. They are kind of like slowly going into the complex. But like
what
I said,
did they found so far? Was this? I was reading there.
Like a bunch of like walls, gates, roads, that kind of stuff. Like of the outer complex. Because like I said, the whole tomb complex is supposed to look like a smaller version of his palace and the surrounding stuff that he ran.
Any timeline on when they'll get in there?
I don't know. They started excavating the outer stuff in 2010.
Okay. And,
like I said, it's slow going. Yeah. But they found a bunch of stuff, but, they're just slowly working their way inwards, I guess.
Okay.
So we haven't even, really talked about the Terracotta soldiers yet. Now, interestingly, the historian there, Xi'an, he never mentioned the Terracotta soldiers, which is crazy. Like I said, it was found accidentally. And it's just kind of like... So as I mentioned earlier, they made it with, they had all these molds that they made out of clay. Because they're terracotta, which is just, hardened clay, essentially. And what they would do is they had 10 different molds of the heads. They've identified 10 distinct facial shapes among all the thousands of warriors that they've so far unearthed. And they said what they probably did was they cast each head using one of these 10 molds, and then they would individualize each soldier by adding, mustaches or eyebrows or whatever the fuck. Just with clay. So that's how they would do it. But the bodies and stuff like that, they said were probably made like an assembly line. They said the way they made the legs, they're hollow. The way they made the legs and stuff like that was kind of the similar way that they would make terracotta pipes back then. Yeah. So it wasn't all that weird. And then they would assemble them. And they weren't all the same size though. They're not all uniform. Not only are their faces different because they're all, they're modular. Yeah. So you could just build them. They built them in pieces and then kind of and fired each piece separately and then assembled them on site. They didn't make each one and then fire it. You know what I'm saying?
It makes perfect sense to me as a military. Yeah. What they're doing is they're mass-producing parts to make a perfect idealized representation of an individual soldier. That's what I think they're doing. They're not random. You did some shit you probably had to earn a position into being chosen, to being modeled as one of these terracotta warriors. And you've agreed that in the afterlife to serve Sherwandi. That's what I think is happening. So yeah, they give you kind of an idealized body, maybe a little bit better than the one that you had in terms of proportion, but about the same height to represent you. And they use a system, a modular system, to reproduce your face. And you've agreed to inhabit that thing in the afterlife, kind of like a golem.
Yeah, you gotta stay on post.
On post in that shit. And it's your body, but it's a better version of the one that you had in the spirit world. To help fucking conquer some shit in heaven. For sure, Wandi.
Because you never know when you might need that shit.
And it's probably only the best of the Imperial Guard were, the Imperial Guard would always be the best. So it's the Imperial Guardsmen are being selected to serve Sherwan in the afterlife. Because none of this shit is by accident. The Chinese just don't do some random shit. This is a well thought out plan. So each one of those statues, if you ask me, as a military man, ex-military man, represents a military man who's given his soul to Sherwandi. That's what it is.
And I think they made them generally taller because they generally, they're life size, obviously. The humans are life size, the horses are life size, and realistic. I think the shortest of the figures is 5'9", and the tallest one is 6'7".
That's big for China.
And normally, the higher you are in rank, the taller they made you.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
Because you're talking about 2,000.
6'7", that's very tall.
2,000 years ago in China. Those are giants. Yeah.
Yeah,
Those are elite soldiers.
I mean, 5'9" isn't all that. That's probably a little above average nowadays. But
but in China,
that would have been like
those are giants.
Very tall. And 6'7" would have been like supernatural. Actually, even now, if you saw somebody that's supernatural,
huge. Yeah.
Because shit, I used to date a guy that was 6'5", and he was like super tall.
The chances of these being random images is, if you ask me, 0. These represent dudes that existed. Yeah. And they've thrown their lot in with Shirwandi in the afterlife. They were the best that China had in that era. That's his pro ball team. That's what we're talking about.
The dream team.
It's the dream team. Yeah.
But so far, they have found more than 8,000 soldiers, 130 chariots, with 520 horses on the chariots. Yeah. And then they've also found 150 other like cavalry horses. And as I mentioned earlier, there's other. It's not just all military. It's mostly infantry, but there are like some other, like acrobats and strongmen and musicians and shit like that.
The infantry were the main weapons in this era. You know what I'm talking about? That's what you attacked with, infantry.
Yeah.
They didn't have artillery. They didn't have fucking armor. No tanks. It was infantry. So, the infantry was the fucking best weapon.
Well, and like
they had artillery, but it'd be like trebuchet or something kind of like fucking catapult, which is a big crossbow. But I'm not sure the Chinese had that at that period, and that wouldn't have been the main killer. The main killer would have been infantry with pole arms, big long fucking rod with an axe at the end, maybe a spear point at the tip. That's usually the kind of things that the Chinese used in infantry combat. Not even swords. What's called a pole arm. And they fought from phalanx, which is side by side, real fucking close, in armor. And they had good armor. Looked like samurai armor, kind of, but it was a bunch of fucking paper armor, basically. It was, I don't want to call it paper, more like cardboard, I guess. No way to describe it. It was layered laminate and then lacquered, tied to vests, and it was only designed to absorb arrows. Real good at that. They were good. They knew exactly what they were doing. Their equipment was perfect for the time. They were a good army.
Well, the interesting thing too about the soldiers is that it wasn't just, even though they were built in a modular fashion, like on an assembly line, and even though the faces were individual, like a lot of the armor was individual too. They said even among like the armor, like some of them have like short pants on, some of them have shin pads, some of them don't, some of them have like different. So they made every single one look completely distinct, which is like pretty awesome.
Well, they're making it to preferences,
right?
For the guy. They represent an individual soldier. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean they probably did. They probably did. And then you have some like in different positions. Most of them were just standing there, but some of them were kneeling. They have like some that are like groomsmen for the horses that are like kneeling next to horses and stuff like that. Yeah,
those are your maintenance guys. Those are the guys who are at motor pool, taking care of the vehicles. That's what it is. The best fucking mechanic. That's the best dude that handles a horse. That's what they're talking. Yeah.
And as I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of people are just used to seeing the soldiers like in their sort of like natural terracotta state. But back then, they would have been painted, like really, really brightly colored, because they wanted them to look as realistic as possible.
Right.
So they had like pink pigments. They had like, so they painted their faces to look like human flesh.
Right.
They painted their hair that looked like natural human hair. I mean, they had all kinds of like, they ground up like precious stone and bone and charcoal and fucking shit like that, tree sap, to make like different colors. And I've seen like some they've done like some digital recreations of what they think that they probably looked like when they were first done, and they look fantastic. Yeah, they actually look like real people. Like,
and they're dapper.
Yeah,
very dapper looking dudes. Yeah, it's the best China had to offer at the time.
I mean, it's really a beautiful, and I kind of feel like until these were found, because like I said, these were buried, for thousands of years until somebody came across them in the 70s. And then when they found it, I think that everyone was kind of astounded because I don't think that anybody thought that that standard of art was all that prevalent in that part of the world at that time period, which, like I said, goes to say you can't like underestimate you can't underestimate like ancient people, especially ancient people that had like pretty much unlimited funds and unlimited manpower, because obviously this took like thousands and thousands of people and several decades to accomplish. It wasn't just one guy. I mean, that would really be amazing, but yeah. So I think that this was a standard that people didn't really expect from this era. So it was like a really big deal. And like I said, if you still see them nowadays, it's still amazing. I mean, like if somebody made that shit now, you'd be fucking impressed. So the fact that somebody did that like thousands of years ago is just like fucking crazy. I would have actually really liked to see them with all the original pigment on them. That would have been really, really cool. I mean, I've seen like digital recreations, which, but that just kind of makes me wish that I could just kind of go back in time for a second. just like see them for real, like before they all got buried. Because I don't think, they weren't, it's not kind of like, some of the funerary art from other cultures where it was kind of like meant to be seen because like, hey, this person's dead, look how impressive they were in life, so we built like this big ostentatious thing. I mean, he built these warriors because he legitimately thought, well, I need protection in the afterlife, so they were just buried. I mean, they weren't put there for people to come gawk at. He legitimately thought, I'm gonna need these like to defend myself, so he didn't care if anybody saw them, so they just built them and then they just buried them in this fucking tomb, and they were, everybody forgot they were there. It's like, that's fucking crazy to me. It's crazy. But yeah. Now, interestingly, a lot of the figures actually used to hold real weapons. And when they were all painted up, because like I said, they were painted to look as realistic as possible with very, flesh tones and like really colorful, armor and stuff like that. So they put real weapons in their hands. Now, unfortunately, most of these weapons were looted not too long after the tomb was finished. Just like in Egypt, everybody's like, oh, we heard that a tomb was finished. All right, we're going to go in there and get that shit. So yeah, the same thing happened in China. So a lot of the weapons were looted. But despite that, they have located over 40,000 bronze items of weaponry. So they have actually recovered that at this stage. So even though a lot of it was looted, that just goes to show how much the shit was in there. Because most of it was looted, but they still found 40,000 bronze weapons. Daggers, spears, swords, lances, battle axes, all kind of shit. And crossbows, all kind of stuff.
I saw a show where a modern sword expert was given one of the bronze swords from Shirwandi's tomb, or tomb complex. He knew everything about swords, and they showed it was first of all, it was fucking beautiful. And it was razor sharp after 2,000 years. That's how good.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, it was razor sharp. Now, bronze doesn't hold an edge forever. You know what I mean? Like, you start banging on people over time, it starts to dent and deform. They could fix it.
Cutting off heads, you can't be doing that.
Right, yeah. They could fix it back in the days, and they would maintain it. So they knew what they were doing with bronze weapons. They weren't as good as steel weapons. But the Romans fucking worked with it for a long time during that same period. Bronze can be very effective, and it can be very sharp. But he picked it up and he's handling it, and he's just, oh yeah, this is it. The balance is good. Good thrusting, good slashing, good chopping, parry. You can do all that with it. They do exactly what they were doing. These were military experts of fucking the highest order for their era, So you're talking about military superpower stuff. You guys were not amateurs. They were fucking great. Real good.
I should add too that they have done studies under electron microscopes of these, and there is evidence that a lathe was used for polishing, which may be the first historical instance that they know of. Of the industrial use of a lathe.
So that
which is crazy. Like all the stuff they saw like in the thing that looks like an industrial lathe.
Remember I said earlier on the show,
this is like
it looks like something done by a lathe.
Ago. That's thousands of years
I said that earlier in the show, people. I didn't know that. We didn't fucking clue.
Yeah, they think that.
I looked at some of this. That looks like that came off a lathe.
It did.
So they had lathes, which you guys don't understand. That lathes
in 210 BC.
210 BC, lathes did not exist in the Western world, really, until the 1800s. Late 1800s.
Tammy said it was aliens.
It's not aliens.
I know.
People are smarter than you give them credit for.
That's what. See, That's why, like I said, I don't like that ancient alien shit because it's like, man, people back then were not stupid. They figured shit out. Just because we forgot about it or we didn't know, and that was a long time ago, that doesn't mean that they didn't figure that shit out. Of course they did.
Their motives were different because they had different religious motives behind them and different religious beliefs. But, I got Khan of Aslan in here. We got a lot of people from Central and South America. I grew up partially in Brazil. When you look at the Aztecs...
Look at my hair sticking up over here.
You don't understand. The average person really didn't know what they were looking at in the 1900s. Especially with the Aztec language, with their glyphs. You're looking at emoticons and emojis.
Yeah.
It's what you're looking at. And a lot of Mesoamerican art and Aztec art and Mayan art, nowadays you look at it and you go, well, that's kawaii, what the Japanese would talk about. It's not supposed to be realism. It's a style, okay? You're talking about little fucking kawaii figures. And it's, what I mean? It's stylism and emojis. And just because it doesn't have like a Greco-Roman style alphabet does not mean that it's not advanced. No, they were very advanced. We're fucking in the 21st century on fucking these little fucking tablets and computers, and we're just now getting into emoticons. The Mexicans had, and the Mayans had that shit fucking thousands of years ago. A language based on emojis. And it's an advanced language. Like you got a little face in it. The face is slightly different in this one, and not quite as holding the corn in the right angle, and 3 things of corn, and it's because it's expressing emotion. So the emoji is expressing emotion, which that's advanced. That's very advanced.
See, I kind of think a lot of the problem. I think that the reason that people nowadays understand like that ancient people were kind of like the same as us, so it's like they kind of like get it. And I think that the problem was this kind of like imperialist attitude that, because there was everybody in Britain and the early United States where they're kind of like, oh, these savage cultures, and it's like
they don't have a true alphabet.
They don't like know any better, and it was just kind of like so it was very like patriarchal, like condescending, paternalistic, I guess. And so to them, it's like, oh well, they can't possibly be as smart or as civilized as we are, so obviously there must be something else going on. So I think they couldn't really understand, or they couldn't really relate to. I mean, nowadays, like I said, you look at like Maya stuff, and you're just like, oh well, that looks like emojis. I mean, that's essentially what it is. Right. I mean, that's what it is.
The Vatican is fucking telling all the Vatican is telling all these Dominican friars to burn all these Mexican and Mayan writings, and the fucking Mexican, and then the Dominican friars are fucking sending messages back to Spain, going, no, you don't understand. These are fucking vast libraries of fucking writing.
Yeah, it's a language, dude.
Yeah,
they're communicating.
And you're talking about something on par with like the ancient Greece and the Romans. These guys, this is they have a lot of knowledge. That burn it.
I mean, just the audacity of thinking that, like, oh, well, they obviously don't know what we know, so we need to get rid of that nonsense.
Well, they wanted to stop what they thought was devil worship, which was only devil worship in the way...
In their
views. They were paying off devils They weren't worshiping them. They were trying to bribe evil devils.
Well, yeah, that's kind of like, which, like I said, that's a totally legit like belief system to have.
Right.
You're just kind of like, well, we know that there's like bad shit or like demons, if you want to use the Judeo-Christian nomenclature. Yeah, there's demons out there. It's like, well, we can't do anything about that, so we're just gonna try to appease them so they won't fuck with us.
Yes, they won't do
which,
anything
like I said,
children.
that's totally illegitimate.
We'll sacrifice these 5 children if you don't fuck with these other 400, fucking 500, 600 children that we have here. That's what they were doing. But the Spanish were appalled back in the 1500s. But they didn't understand the system. They didn't have the literature. They didn't know the thinking that well.
Well, and I feel like a lot of them
Cortez
just didn't.
knew. But,
yeah, I mean,
there's nothing he could do.
I mean, you don't want to like blanket because there were like some people even back then that were just kind of like, bro, like, you know, this is an actual complex civilization with their own kind of thing, and maybe we should try to understand it rather than just destroying it.
Right.
But you know, I kind of feel like the overriding thing was no, just destroy it. I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, because the Mayans and the Mexican Empire or the Aztec Empire that was fucking layered on top of it were every bit of what Japan was in the 14, 15, 16, 1700s. It was about that same thing. They were just under a different condition. There was cannibalism and stuff, but there was trout and a lot of other. There was cannibalism in Russia during World War II. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. It's like I don't really think that like one civilization. I don't know if you can really get too high and mighty about like, oh well, you guys can't do this because you know everybody's got like fucking skeletons in their closet. Right? It's like, you know,
times get hard. A motherfucker's gonna do what he's got to do.
And a lot of things are similar if you look at them like through a particular lens. I think people get too hung up on like I said, maybe not so much nowadays, but I kind of feel like people got too hung up on like the differences and didn't really understand like the similarities. Because a lot of stuff is like really similar. You're just looking at it through a slightly different lens. That's all.
Zach just jumped in, said hello to us, and said we're a cult now. Yeah, we've always been a cult. Matter of fact, where are them damn super chats? Jenny fucking worked hard on this show. Not a single super chat all day.
I mean, we're not a cult because I'm not like asking you to like, you know, disconnect from your family. Or
we know times are hard.
That you all have to have sex with me and you can't do anything other than what I say.
If I get some pictures of her, y'all will want to have sex with her like fucking crazy. We'd make thousands of dollars, Jenny, tens of thousands. We'd have them flying from all around the world to come have sex with you.
You think?
I think so.
Sure, why not?
That's fucking funny.
Tom's trying to pimp me out.
I'm trying to pimp him out. God, drop. You want any more ice in that, or is that good?
Yeah, let's get some more ice. I mean, you know.
All right. Go ahead and continue on.
If I ever need more ice, yes, I always need more ice. It's fucking Florida. That's what we do here. Cult of Pookie. I can agree with that. Like I said, if you want to be a cult, I don't want to be like a shitty cult though. I kind of want your money, but I'm not gonna come and take it from you. I'm not gonna like say I'm gonna like give you like fucking and and I'm not gonna tell you what to do. I'm not saying we have rules or nothing like that. It's just it's chill. It's chill. It's the cult of chill. Do the fuck what you want. If you want to send me money, that's cool.
Yeah.
If you don't, that's okay too. I understand. I'm also broke.
Yeah, we're all broke.
So I get it.
Yeah.
I did okay.
The world is falling apart.
I did okay this month. Well, I got a lot of graphic design work this month, which helped. But you know what I mean? So, Maurice Cotterell made a study on the Maya that will blow your mind a couple decades ago. And honestly,
that's Kanavatslan that said that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we did a show about the Maya, did we not?
No, we needed to do more show. We did one a long time ago.
We did one a long time ago.
That's how we got a lot of our Mexican fans.
Yeah.
Kanavatslan, of course, lives in Tijuana. He's been a friend of mine, an online friend of mine for fucking years now. One of the first fans that ever contacted me. Being from Southern California for a certain part of my life, fucking, you know what I mean? And again, I have an affinity towards, you know what I mean, Mexico. And then growing up partially in Brazil, I've been all over this motherfucker. Even though I'm Southern. Okay, my family from the South, Mississippi. But no, man, fucking North Americans do not appreciate Mesoamerican history.
Sadly.
Yeah, they don't appreciate it. It's as cool as any ancient Egypt, fucking ancient Rome, they had their own thing going. It was different. It was a different conditions, but they were humans just like us, and they fucking they had some cool ideas, and one of the most advanced calendars ever. It's a lost civilization because the Vatican and the Spanish burned a lot of their history. And according to the Spanish friars,
do that, you guys.
According to the Spanish friars, it was a vast history with a lot of poetry.
Well, yeah, it would have had to have been.
They said it had a lot of great poetry.
Any culture that's been around for that long of a time is going to have like a wealth of cultural.
Right. They said it was on par with Greco-Roman culture. Unfortunately destroyed.
I mean, the shit that survived is like pretty badass, though. Honestly, you know where you should go? There's a museum in Tampa. I think they changed the name since I've been there. But it's basically like the Museum of South Florida, or whatever the hell they're calling it now. I don't know. But they have like a massive, or they used to, like when I lived there. They had a massive display of like Maya, Olmec, Aztec. They had all that kind of stuff. They had like a whole wing. Yeah. And they had like one of those really big calendars. You know what I mean? Like they had one of those. I took my picture in front of it like a long time ago. But yeah, it's badass. They have like a huge collection. Yeah. I don't know if a lot of it's still out because that was a long time ago, but
what the average thing, mostly what a Westerner or a Northwesterner or fucking a white European style person would know about it. It's what they learned off of fucking Indiana Jones. You just run around, you got a big fucking golden fucking face and shit. No, it was a lot more than that. There was a lot of stuff that they believed in and knew about, but it was each thing that they had was a part of a much larger culture that had a lot. We don't have the context of a lot of the stuff that they believed in. But they were not a primitive people. They were advanced. They were like the Japanese. They were like and it would be it's sadly destroyed by the Vatican. The Vatican said, no, burn it. It's devil worship stuff. We got to make them Catholics. And then it kind of merged. The Nahuatl or the fucking Mexica culture, the Mesoamerican culture, and Catholicism. They they had a lot in common even back in those days.
Yeah, sure.
There was a lot of stuff about the Mexica culture that was kind of like Catholicism. They're not that.
Like
different.
I said, not that different. So it's like they saw that and they're like, "Oh yeah, I get that."
Yeah, so it's
a little bit different, but I get it.
Right, but just something lost to time, unfortunately. It'd be interesting to know more about exactly their literature and their stories. We finally picked apart the calendar and the language, but it was a fucking desert jungle type culture that was as cool as ancient Egypt, ancient Rome. Pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
shit.
It's weird because I feel like I'm glad it's more getting its due nowadays. But when when we were growing up, probably like when I was in school, I remember like learning pretty much zero.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you took a world history class,
I
think it was almost all European history.
You're right.
I took a whole world history class.
Yeah.
In high school, and I'm pretty sure it was 90%, 95% European history.
Yeah.
I don't even think they covered any Asian history. I don't think they covered any African history.
Yeah.
Other than like ancient Egypt and shit. They didn't cover any of that.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And growing up as a teenager in Brazil, you run into what they would call indigenous people. I hate that word because it puts people in boxes. To me, everybody's an American. There's new Americans and old Americans. And a lot of those old Americans, like you look at Olmecs, a lot of those, they don't look like they were from here. They look like they're from Africa. Okay? Or something from some island somewhere in Polynesia.
And honestly, I never thought
people have been coming here for thousands and thousands.
Well, the thing about it is, I think that where you're from is maybe the least important thing about you because you didn't choose it.
Right. It's just
you just happen to be born where your parents were at the time you were born. You know what I mean? You didn't have any control over it.
With the Central and South American people, were a good-looking people. Good-looking people. They always had a caste system. of elites and workers. They were kind of like ant colonies, and like any other, all civilizations are kind of like ant colonies, but they were like that, you know what I mean? And they weren't any different from us, you know. They were different, but they had their own character. But I'm saying that everything is recognizable. You look and you go, oh yeah, and there's always the universal concept of beauty. You know what I mean? They had beautiful people and people that were average and people that were not all that good looking. And that's everywhere. You know what I mean?
Every culture has their homely.
They had their homely people. You know? It's just everywhere. You know what I mean?
We're homely Americans.
You know, that's just the reality. You know, didn't matter what continent.
That's gonna be my hyphenate. I'm a homely American.
It just happened. You know what I mean? But no, man, fucking. I had a good time growing up there, and fucking, you know what I mean, and got an appreciation that, you know, I'm middle aged. I'm just glad that I had the experience to come up in Brazil, and be able to see Argentina and Chile and Paraguay and Uruguay, and go up into Colombia, and you know, and see, you know, fucking Southern California, which is kind of like North Mexico, really, you know, and grew up around friends that were Mexican American or fucking they're Mexican Americans, but they're also mixed with Irish people, fucking Chicano people, so we would call them in California. There's just. I'm just glad that I got to see that part of the world, you know, so because it was fun. It was fun. It's not any kind of gravitas or anything. It's just, you know, you're experiencing other people, you know, and hanging out with them and learning how to. Caravasalan will fucking send me all kinds of fucking recipes, you know. I'm making my own tortillas, fucking out of maseca, and fucking growing my own fucking chilies to make fucking salsa and shit, you know. Because, you know, being a cook, you can fucking incorporate everything. But then I'll fucking mix British shit in there, too. You know what I mean? And European stuff, too, you know. A lot of the stuff that we have here in the South, you know, like chicken fried steak, Southern fried steak, that's schnitzel. That's Wiener Schnitzel, which is German, you know. We do that, too, you know. Country gravy. Just the world's a fucking great place. I just hope you guys enjoy it, you know. It's a great place, and the world has a lot of different kinds of people, and they're all cool, you know. They're all.
I mean, 99% of people are cool.
Yeah,
you always gotta watch
cool.
for that 1% that are like serial killers and shit.
And you got assholes.
And there's assholes.
Got dumb motherfuckers, right? Most people are cool.
Most people are okay. Like they might not be cool. Like hey, I want to hang out with you, cool.
But no, someone's just.
But
cool.
most people are just like okay, like not like harmless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I don't want to be like one of those people because I know like some people get like that when they get older. Just like, oh my god, everybody's the worst and stuff. Everybody like people suck and everything like that. They don't suck.
Yeah.
Most people are fine.
Yeah.
Most people are inoffensive. Most people are inoffensive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just seriously, most people wouldn't. They're not gonna hurt you. Nothing like that. Now you gotta watch your ass, but you know what I mean, because you never know.
Now my boy Khan's going off about Montezuma's fucking problems that he didn't kill Cortez fucking earlier. No, look, you can't look at it that way. What happened, and what happened with Mexico happened, and that was where Mexico's character came from. Mexico is a place almost kind of like Texas, where it's a mixture of Mesoamerican and European. Okay, it's just that's what happened. You can't reverse what happened, you know. But the thing is, though, is that even if Montezuma killed Cortez at a certain time, it wouldn't have helped because later on more Spanish would have come and it just would have happened later. The world changes, and that was the way the world was going. It would have been an unstoppable. There's no way to. It would have always been the blend. It would have always been that blend. Khan.
It's a blend, like a spice blend.
Yeah, and I look at you, fucking Khan has got some Spanish bloodlines in his ass anyway. Fucking that big motherfucker. You're an elite Mexican with Spanish bloodlines. You know it, bro. You're too tall. You're too tall and good looking. Hold on. Because the only tall Mexicans were the Mexicans that were not sacrificed. Okay? That's how the Mexique did that shit. Fucking the underclass got sacrificed. The royal class didn't. Okay? You're royal. Too big to be regular Mexican.
Danny Rowling said, Jenny, what mystical ways did this emperor seek out to be immortal again? Mostly he kind of went along. Any kind of legend that came around about, oh, there's this mystical, like, fucking wizard or whatever, or these islands or whatever, like, he would go and try to find that shit. It was almost like Ponce de Leon looking for the Fountain of Youth kind of situation. And like I said, he either drank mercury or took mercury tablets because somebody, not sure who, told him that mercury was like an elixir of life. He was always kind of like looking for an elixir of life. Spoiler alert, the mercury killed him. That's what they think anyway. And he didn't live that long. Like I said, he was only 49 or 50 when he died. And probably it was from all the mercury that he drank because he thought that it would make him live forever. He didn't know any better. I mean, I laugh, but so, what's he going to do? He's been dead for thousands of years. He's not going to like come back and get me. It's fine. Let's see. Zach says, kind of weird for a topic, but you guys should do a show about the Tomb Raider games or movies. Lara Croft and her exploits fit the show pretty well. Honestly, you know what? That's not that crazy. I was kind of like, I've never played them, but I watched Tom play them a lot because he really likes them. But I don't think I've ever seen the movies, though, now that I'm thinking about it. But I like the games. I like any of that kind of like... When I was a kid, I don't remember if I ever brought this up on the show before, but when I was a kid, I wanted to be an archaeologist, big time. Like, up until I was about... Well, I think when I was really little, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And like I said, until I figured out that it's like, what? I'd have to put, like, kitties and doggies to sleep? No, thank you. And then I was like, I think I'll be an archaeologist instead. And honestly, I wouldn't mind doing that nowadays. That seems like a kind of a cool job. Ian England says, Tom and Jenny, glad I got to join in again. I moved in June and didn't have internet till now. Holy shit. Love y'all and the podcast. Well, hey, we love you too. We're glad you're back. Yeah, I thought I hadn't seen you in a little while. I mean, it's been a month, but moving. I know. Kind of Otson says, I love Angelina Jolie in that role. She does actually kind of... I mean, she looks a lot like the game character. I think they did, like, really good casting there. But I don't think I've ever seen any of the movies now that I'm thinking about it. Maybe I saw the first one. I can't really remember. I like the game so much that I don't think... Have you seen any of the Tomb Raider movies?
Yeah, I've seen like the first two. They were okay. They were okay.
They were okay?
fun. I like the games better.
That's what I'm saying. I just like the games. I like watching you play the games.
Oh, yeah. Fucking...
Although every time you're, like, climbing around, like, some big, like, fucking bottomless pit or something like that, it makes me so,
I played the classic games, like Legend.
Anxiety.
I was big into, like, Legend and, what was the other one? Tomb Raider. Fucking... I don't remember all the names of it. It was, like, fucking... Dark Angel or something. There was, like, fucking 4 or 5 of them. The older ones from the 90s. I liked those.
Yeah, like I said, they're really relaxing. Well, other than
good music playing.
Yeah, I like the music, and I like all the puzzles.
Anniversary was one of them that I played. Now they got a whole bunch of new ones, which they have a different character. She isn't quite.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Ian. She's not quite as drawn the same way. She's not as voluptuous and more idealized. But I liked the old fucking Lara Croft.
You liked when she was bouncy. Bouncing.
She was not as bouncy as you think. She was just kind of a thin, yeah. She definitely had implants. She had implants, but she was the female.
I'm climbing up on these fucking walls of this temple, and it's like with my boobs bouncing.
Yeah, and she's.
If I was her, I'd have put on a sports bra.
Well, she probably had one on, but it was a good character, and she's part, I think, Spanish and British. I think. In the game, and the puzzles are great and jumping around. I think it was Anniversary, Legend. I think it was something Dark Angel. I think it was a PC game, but I was able to get that for fucking Xbox One. And then there was a newer one that I played that's really good. That's probably from like 2010, 2005, around that. I don't remember which one that one was called. That's where she's doing all the Mesoamerican stuff and fucking doing the sundials and I gotta go through all that shit again.
I remember you playing that.
Yeah,
one.
and then she ends up being underwater with a bunch of fucking big old Norse.
Yeah,
Odin
that's right. I
statues
remember
and shit.
watching you play that.
Yeah, that was a really good
I don't
one.
remember what it was called, though.
Yeah. But they're fun games, you know. I haven't played the new ones. There's a lot of new ones out there, but they look too realistic to me. I like idealized video game type stuff. I think I've had some subscribers say, no, play the new ones, you'll like them. But, you know, I don't know. Maybe I will. There's something about the music from the old ones and the kind of the relaxing pace where you're going through, like, you go to Croft Manor and you're playing around inside the fucking the
mansion.
You're in the mansion, and then you're in the fucking the maze made out of hedges, and try to find fucking little fucking silver and gold coins to like level yourself up and shit. It's just fun shit, you know.
Zach says archaeology seems like kind of a glamorous career, but if you've ever seen Time Team, it actually seems pretty boring. Yeah, I kind of thought that. Like, I think a lot of people got like a romanticized version of it because of the Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah.
In the 80s, and then like the Tomb Raider games later on. But most of the time, you're just like sitting in some hot ass desert somewhere, like with a little brush, like trying to like pick out some fucking bones. But I don't know. There's something like really relaxing and like kind of interesting about that.
So Zach asking about fucking Tomb Raider says we should do something on the games and the
He says it was called Angel of Darkness.
Angel of
2003.
Yeah, I had.
He said it was kind of a piece of shit because they released it half finished because of the deadlines, and it almost tanked the series.
Yeah, but the thing is though is that I got it on Xbox One, and there's a bunch of shit you could unlock, which expanded the game. I never had it on discs or anything, and I liked it.
I don't remember that one. I remember you playing Legend, and I remember
Anniversary. And then there was another one that was newer. It was good. But she started off as she's on her boat, and you got
yeah.
and the water effects are really good. Now Count goes, yeah, true. I guess he's talking about me. I just still don't like the Spaniards. So I love Angelina Jolie in that role. She said archaeology seems Zach's talking about. Yeah, the archaeology seems glamorous, but it's not. Well, it's not glamorous. It just seems.
Well, that's what I just said. Most of the time, you're just like sitting there, like very meticulously, like picking like bones out of the dirt.
Yeah, and Constance, I played the new ones, but Lara is so skinny. She needs some bouncy action. Yeah, she just doesn't look like Lara Croft. Lara Croft was a skinny James Bond female, basically, with implants and a fucking sexy fucking walk and good with guns and with a British accent. And she's basically James Bond. She's just a female James Bond. And she's also just a thief going into damn tombs. Yeah. So in a way, she's not only is she James Bond, she's also kind of like fucking Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I thought was a great character. And they tried to kind of, in the newer ones, it's kind of like they tried to make her a normal person. Like, no. Lara Croft was not a normal person. She was like James Bond. She was an icon, which is kind of like a superhero,
I mean, honestly, I don't like play a lot of video games myself, but the ones that I used to enjoy watching you play was the Tomb Raider games and Fallout.
Yeah, because of the music.
Yeah, I think it's just very relaxed. And I kind of like, I don't really like games that are just kind of like coming at you like all the time with like all this noise and action. I'm just like, look, my anxiety doesn't need that. I like Tomb Raider because, some of it's anxiety inducing, especially like me because I'm afraid of heights and stuff. So it's like whenever he's jumping around there's like big gaps. I'm like, holy shit, I'm like freaking out. But the music is relaxing. And a lot of times you can just kind of like take your time.
Yeah. You're not under any stress.
I like I said in Fallout, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna dick around in my shelter for a little while, and like decorate
make some things and make.
I'm gonna put some rugs down and like I like that. You can kind of like take things at your own pace.
You're right,
and it's not just this constant thing. It's like, oh my god, someone's shooting at me. Oh my god, it's monsters.
In
oh my
Fallout,
god.
you can make an underground Fallout shelter and build stand-up arcade video games and
Yeah, see,
play
that's
a
rad.
video game inside of a video game.
I will, back in the day, I would sit there and like for like 2-3 hours and just like watch him decorate his apartment and Fallout. I don't really care about him like shooting at the like giant monsters or nothing like that. I'm like, yeah, that's cool and everything, but it's like I was like, ooh, get that like post. That's cool. Like put that rug over there. You know what I mean? It was like that kind of stuff. I like stuff where you can like go at shit. It's like, well, okay, now I'm ready to go fight some monsters. So I'm gonna go out my apartment. And I'm gonna go fight some monsters and go on a mission. But you can like do it at your own pace. I like that. And I think a lot of people do kind of like that idea, which is probably why that game's so popular.
Yeah.
Kind of Hot Sun said Fallout is awesome. Man, I still play that.
Yeah.
I like all the Fallout games.
I still haven't done even all the expansion stuff off of Fallout 3.
I can't believe like how fucking
Fallout 4 or whatever
expansive that game is. There's just like so much stuff. And like like you've done even like a lot of the side missions and you haven't even like done like a percentage of the shit.
No, I haven't played it in about a month. So I need to go.
What was the one that you had that has like all, I think it's like set around, isn't it set around like DC and Boston and stuff? So it's like all around kind of like the colonial era.
Fallout fucking, what was it, 4?
I like that. Like, I liked that.
I know that area. I lived in that area. The fucking.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's wrong, though. It doesn't look like that.
That's okay. It's a video game.
Yeah. Are we still on the show or are you done?
No, I'm done.
Yeah, okay. So we're winding down.
And Hugo said I played Fallout Vegas, which was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, Vegas. I like New Vegas.
Yeah.
And it had Howard Hughes in it.
That's right.
It had Howard Hughes in it. He was House.
I forgot about that.
And he was in suspended animation. I wouldn't mind playing New Vegas again.
Ian said, if you have Fallout 4, you need to get the Far Harbor.
Yeah, DLC. I'm on Far Harbor right now.
Yeah, I think he's playing that now.
I haven't gone to, I think, after Far Harbor, I think the other one is like Robotron or Robo something or other. I got to do that one after that one. I'm on Far Harbor.
Zach says, I'm friends on Facebook with Peter Connolly, who did the music for the 90s games. Tom, you should reach out to him. He's awesome.
What am I to do with him? I'm straight.
Well, you could just like
fucking Zach could blow him.
Well, you could like talk to him about it. What?
Okay, yeah, he did the Lara Croft games because the Lara Croft music
So relaxing.
That shit would be played at my funeral when they're putting me into the damn ground.
No, you know what? At your funeral, you know what I'm gonna play? I'm gonna play a haunting theme.
Yeah, the haunting theme.
And I'm gonna have like that dude. Is that dude still alive? What's that dude's name? I know his name. I know his name, but I can't think of it. I know what his name is, but I can't think of it. Anthony something. Anthony Call. Is that what his name is? But yeah. So I'm gonna have him do the voiceover at your funeral. Can I do that?
Zach's asking
that would be super funny.
L.A. Noire. No, I haven't. I don't even know anything about that one. I don't know anything about that one. It's one of his favorite games.
Every now, I'm always just kind of like, man, I should get into video games. I just never do. I feel like I never have time.
Yeah.
I feel like I would never have time.
You're working all the time, and
now that I've started, now that I have like, if anyone's counting, now that I have 3 fucking separate channels going.
Yeah.
And it's like, so every single day I'm like, oh, I got to make a video for this channel, or I got to like, so I feel like I never have time.
Yeah, you see, because of everything that's happening, internet money's starting to dry up, so we have to try to expand our footprint to keep up with this shit, unfortunately. I mean, Jenny still does good on the books and the graphic design, but internet money's drying up.
Well, I thought to myself that maybe, because I mean, I know that we have quite a lot of subscribers on 13 o'clock, but I thought to myself, maybe there's another audience that, would maybe like this show, but it's a little bit scattershot. Because, like I said, we didn't plan anything from the start. So it was just kind of like all over the place. And we're like, whatever the fuck we feel like talking about, which is good. I like that. But I said, well, maybe I should start like a couple other channels that are more focused.
Yeah.
That maybe would like draw in some people that wouldn't normally watch this shit, because it's like, why the fuck are you guys like yapping about shit that doesn't have anything to do with what you're supposed to be talking about?
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like, so I thought that I would do that. And I said, well, it doesn't really take me, I mean, it takes a long time, but it doesn't take that much longer to do like a couple more videos a week than I have been doing.
Yeah. And the only thing I can do is like, I could do survivalist stuff and cooking stuff.
Which maybe you should. Maybe you should.
Do you want to put it on the same ring of channels?
I don't know. I mean, you can if you want. Like,
you'd have to film it for me.
Oh, geez. I don't have time for that.
Yes, that's the problem. Well, if I could put it up on a damn... Well, no, we still have Dropbox, don't we?
Yeah.
So that means I can record it through.
I mean, you could record it on your shit and then just send me the file because we have a shared Dropbox. So you could just like send it in there, and then like I could put it up. I'm not going to edit it or nothing. Jesus Christ, how much time do you think I have?
Yeah, right.
But like I said,
well, I would make it so you wouldn't have to edit it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Right.
But you know, and the thing about it is like I don't.
Yeah, fucking Ian Lane England is when I'm going to start my own podcast. I don't think I would have to. It would be easier for me to just make videos and fucking send them to our Dropbox and her put them up.
And I could even put them. I could even put them in a separate playlist, or I could start another channel. Because, like I said, when I first started doing like Flickers of Fear, Tomes of Terror, like my other, movie and book reviews that are just me, I was like, well, should I start a new channel? I said, well, initially I'll just start a new playlist.
Right.
But I think eventually I'll move those to the horror channel.
Right.
But I'm not going to do it right now because the horror channel, I can't monetize it yet because it's too small.
The thing is, though, is if I do more survivalist type stuff, it wouldn't be interactive unless I streamed it. And I wouldn't make any money unless I streamed it. So I'd have to stream it.
Well, I mean, you could eventually get your own laptop and stream it through there.
I have a laptop over there. I don't know if
that's right. I forgot.
I don't know
about
if that laptop is good enough to stream.
That's my old one.
Yeah. Didn't we have problems streaming with that, or was that our connection?
I think that was our connection. You might actually be fine because, now that we have...
Do we still have a way I can physically connect to this? I have that right there. That black thing.
Yeah, you can. I have a LAN cable right there.
Look, what I could try to do is I could try to fucking stream something.
Yeah, you could try.
We'll do an experimental stream. I'll tell you all about it when it's ready.
Or like,
should I do it on another channel?
If you wanted to come in here and stream, you could.
Yeah. No, I want to be around where all my equipment and stuff.
Where all your stuff in your man cave.
Yeah, where I can show what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And see if
that makes sense.
How it is.
But like I said,
you can continue to work.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just saying, if you needed to, I could work around you. But I'm just saying.
We have to talk more about it.
Yeah.
See exactly what it is I have to do to set it up.
Yeah. Like I said, just don't like. I don't really have like a lot of time to like I said, if you want to make videos and stuff, I don't have a lot of time to edit those or anything.
It makes more sense if I stream it.
Kind of odd since it's live from the man cave.
Yeah, live from the man cave. Yeah. Yeah, well, that way we can.
Your man cave is looking pretty nice nowadays.
I would do it so we can interact.
Yeah.
If I can interact, then I can answer questions, and it would help me move along through the whole fucking thing. But I have to get it set up with you guys. I can cover all kinds of stuff: equipment, commo, which is communication, fucking current events, everything that's happening with global politics or fucking what do you call it? Fucking geopolitics. A lot of weird shit's happening. And I could also recommend other channels that are more precise than me, that are actually fucking working on shit and actually have receipts to what we're talking about. But, I could do that. And then we could discuss shit. But I'm mostly into, like, what exact equipment you need, how do you maintain it, and what is good for what. They got dudes fucking doing crazy shit like buying plate carriers and fucking... They don't even know what that's for. They just fucking saw soldiers carrying that, and they don't understand the bonuses and the limitations of something like that. It's only for certain things, I have a plate carrier. I wouldn't try to live in a plate carrier. Crazy? No. That's only good for certain things.
Sly said, love your red hair, Jenny. Thank you. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I got a new, the blue wig that I love so much?
Yeah.
I bought another one just like that.
Yeah.
Just because the one that I had before was getting kind of like a little bit tangly and janky because I wear it out all the time. So I got another one just like that.
When's the next Memento Mori?
It might be this Friday.
This Friday? Okay, because I want to go out. I'm getting sick of this shit.
It might be Friday, but I'll check with Dimitri. I think it's this Friday.
Okay. And
so we might. So
Wednesday.
Which means we'd have to go like after the show.
Right. I'll do it.
So you're gonna have to behave because
I'm gonna have to not drink.
I don't want to have to drive home again.
Last time I was fucked up, bub.
Wow. Were you guys here? Like, did you hear that story? Should we tell that story again?
Go ahead and tell it. Yeah. I got pictures now too. Okay, go.
Of what? Wait, pictures of what?
Fucking Scott sent me pictures of his tranny girlfriend. Fucking that was that was there. That was fucking with me. I got pictures of that now.
I have a feeling that there was more to that than you told me.
There was. I got the whole fucking backstory.
No, I mean, I think there was more to that than you told me.
What do you mean?
I think there was.
What do you think? Me and her were fucking around?
No. I'm just saying I think there was more to that than you told me. Well, you were like super drunk that night, though.
Yeah.
What ended up happening? We didn't go out after the show like last week. We went out Saturday night. We went to Barbarella, and it was a good night. That's the '80s night, like new wave and stuff. And so we went there, and I barely drank.
Yeah.
I had 2 of those like bullshit White Claw type things, and I think I drank those things like before 10:30, and we didn't leave till almost 2.
I was pounding those fucking things,
and
man.
he didn't. And they don't even have liquor.
No,
okay, they don't have
liquor.
hard liquor. They just have like White Claw shit. They have beer, and that's about it.
Well, they have a bunch of different flavors. One was mojito.
I had one
Bacardi
of those.
Mojito. I was
one of
drinking
those.
those things like it was water, because I thought they were so weak. I got fucking hammered.
I haven't seen you
Bacardi
that
Mojito.
hammered in a long time.
Because I was chugging them. I was chugging them and throwing them.
Oh,
like
they're so weak. It's like 5% alcohol. I'm like,
Yeah,
well, yeah,
yeah.
but 5%, that adds up.
That adds up when
If
you're
you
fucking
keep doing
chugging
it
them real fast.
Like I
Let's fucking
said,
throw
me,
that
I
shit.
had one of those Bacardi mojito things when we first got there, and that was 9:30. And then I had one, like, it wasn't White Claw, but it was like a White Claw. I don't remember what brand it was, but it was like, it was watermelon? Watermelon.
Yeah.
I had that about 10:30. After that, I drank no more. I drank nothing but water until we left, and it was almost 2. Tom was hammered.
I was hammered.
So hammered that like we left, and our friend Sophie was like, please tell me that you're driving, Jenny, because he was just like, he was blah, 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 and he was just like yelling, and he just like kept yelling the same things at me, and I was like, dude, you told me that like 20 times already. Like he kept telling me the same thing, and he was like yelling, and I was like, oh my god. So everyone was just like, please tell me you're driving. And for a second he's like, I can drive. I'm like, seriously? And then like, so he gets in the car and he backs immediately
Into another car.
backs
Boom!
into another car. Like it didn't hurt our car, it didn't hurt their
Yeah,
car.
it's just bumpers.
But like he just, and I was like, get out.
No. We drove down the road.
Actually, he drove down the road.
a little while.
He drove. Well, you drove like a block.
About a block, and I couldn't.
And you were like, you were weaving, and I was like, pull over right now.
Yeah.
Because I was sober, and I was like, I just don't want to drive because I was like, man, I got to take these fucking shoes off because I can't drive in those boots. But I was just like, you're gonna kill me. Please get out. So I made him get out, and so I had to drive home because he was so fucked up. Yeah. He was really, really fucked up. And then, like, the whole time, like, I said, well, can you navigate? Because I have my phone. I don't remember how to get home because of all the toll roads and stuff. Because we don't go there that often. So, so he kept reading to me 2.5 miles, 2 points. I'm like, dude, it's fine. Like, she'll tell me, like, when the turn's coming up. You don't have to tell me, like, every 0.1
We still made it back.
We did. Well, yeah, because I was sober.
Yeah.
And so I was driving. And so then, like, I stopped at the Circle K so he could run. I said, you got to go in and get some sandwiches because I don't have my shoes on because I can't drive with those boots on. So he went in and got some sandwiches, and that was fine. So we get home. I have a chicken salad sandwich. He has a couple burritos that he can't eat or whatever.
No, I ate them.
No, I thought that was that one you didn't eat because you were like, I can't eat
finish
this.
it. There was only like
said.
1/3 of it left.
And then, like, we go to sleep, and it was probably like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Then, like, an hour later, I think it was like an hour and a half later, I don't think I heard anything.
Yeah.
But I just suddenly woke up, and I was like, something weird is happening. And I turned, and because I was laying this way, like, away from the door of the bedroom, and I turned around, and I see, like, in the room, it's kind of dark, but I can still see because of the light from the hall. And I turn, and I see Tom standing at the end of the bed. Like, because at the end of the bed, we have, like, this big, long bench thing. It's like a bench that you can lift up and you can push it in it.
Yeah.
That he sits on sometimes. And it's like, so he was standing by that, and he was just standing there and, like, not moving. And it was, like, it was really creepy. And I just, like, I looked at it like that, and I was like, what are you doing? Because, like I said, I was sober, and he was still fucked up because this was only, like, an hour and a half later after you'd gone to sleep.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what are you doing? And he says, pissing.
Yeah.
I was like, are you peeing on the floor?
Yeah.
And then he's like, what? Where? What? Like, where am I? Like, he'd been sleepwalking.
I was sleepwalking.
And I was just like, holy shit, did you just fucking pee on the floor?
Yeah. I'm fucking reaching around trying to find it. I couldn't find it. I didn't piss. I was dreaming that I was pissing. It's fucking funny.
I have never seen that happen ever.
No.
And then like I was just like, oh my god. I was like, please don't tell me you peed on the floor.
I was dreaming that I was in the bathroom taking a leak. But I wasn't fucking taking a leak, and I wasn't in the bathroom.
Holy crap.
What? Yeah, it was fucking...
It was just, that was so weird though, like me turning over like that and just seeing you standing there. I said, he looked just like the fucking chick in Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
And we don't know how long he'd been standing there.
No,
which was
I may have been standing there a long time.
Which is really creepy.
But fucking what had happened before that fucking night, which was funny. I thought the shit was funny. My friend Scott showed up with a fucking
with a trans woman.
With a trans girl. And the trans girl, me and the trans girl were talking, and she is fucking loving on me. So I go to the bathroom, and she comes in after me. And she goes, "I'm gonna suck your dick." And fucking, I'm like, no. And she's loving her. I says, no. I got a girlfriend. And she goes, yeah, I know she's here, but I'm gonna go through proper channels. I says, you need to go through proper channels.
She's gonna go through proper channels.
You gotta go. So you need to go talk to her first before you suck this dick. And she's like, I love you, and all that kind of shit. You're the greatest man ever, fucking. Because she thought that I was just gonna fucking let her. And so you go talk to her.
She was trying to get me involved in witchcraft.
Yeah, she was like, I'm bisexual. I'll fuck her too. And I said, go talk to her. But this is who it is.
She was telling me that. Well, she was wanting me to get into involved in like some fucking witchcraft stuff.
Yeah,
so she was trying to involve me in witchcraft.
Yeah, that's her.
That we were gonna do some like witchcraft stuff to bring about certain.
And she was there with my friend. So you know that.
I'd never seen her before. Ashley, her name was.
Yeah,
and I'd actually never seen her before.
Yeah.
I guess he had. What happened?
Okay, I'll tell you how that shit happened.
Are you gonna tell me?
Yeah, I was like, where the fuck did you meet her? Because we've known him forever, and he's got a girlfriend.
I've known Scotty since. Not girlfriend, fiance.
Yeah. Scott's.
Yeah, what happened to her?
Scott's got a wife, and isn't he married to her?
Well, they were engaged to be married.
I think they're
I don't
married
know.
or something.
I don't remember if they got married or not, but I know they were engaged.
Scott said, "No, I can do whatever I want." She told me that I can do whatever I want as long as I come home at night. So Scott.
I kind of figured that it was something like that.
All right. Scott goes on a dating site, okay, looking for. I guess you could. I don't want to call them escorts, but they're kind of like escorts. And he found her.
Yeah.
So she was an escort.
Okay.
A novice escort. Okay. And that was his secretary for the night. Okay. You know, it was like a paid date.
Okay, I gotcha.
That's what was going on here.
I gotcha.
But she didn't like him. He says he's not fucking. He's like, I don't think I'm gonna fucking call her out. I'm not gonna fucking take her out anymore. He's got a girlfriend, but that was his little secretary for the night. And so I think people outside. I don't know. I don't know if people outside the scene would understand it. Scott isn't. Scott's a fucking hoe. Okay. Scott's a hoe. Scott's always been a hoe.
We like Scotty though.
Yeah, Scotty's cool.
It's funny because
Scott owns a bar.
Yeah,
he's cool.
He owns another bar downtown Sanford called the Capitol Room.
Yeah, he's not.
He looks like a regular guy. Like he doesn't look gothy. He doesn't.
No, he's like a jock.
But he's super into. He's been going to iBar since forever.
Yeah.
I mean, probably longer than I've been going, and I've been going a long time. So yeah, he's been going there forever. He's older than me, but I think he's younger than you.
He's younger than me, and he's fucking jealous.
He's 50-ish. 52? 51? Something like that. I think he's a little bit older than I am, but he's younger than you are.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's been going there forever. Like I said, he looks normal. He just looks like a regular guy, but he's super, super into like 80s music and like goth music and stuff like that. You wouldn't know it looking at him, but yeah, but he owns a bar. He has a lot of money. So he owns a bar. Him and Big Tom, who owns Mannequins, they have a thing going. So they have like kind of a business partnership a little bit. So Scotty bought a bar called the Capitol Room, which I think is going to open next month because I did the posters for it. It's kind of more, he's not necessarily competing with mannequins because it's more like a high end. He wants it to be kind of like a Great Gatsby kind of 20s ish kind of vibe. Like I said, like real high end martinis, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then he wants to do, because like the poster I did, like one of the opening things he wants to do was like a CBGB night where he plays like Blondie and the Ramones and Talking Heads and stuff like that. So he wants kind of like a hybrid. Yeah. So that's kind of like what he's doing with that. But yeah, so he came to Barbarella Saturday night, which, like I said, not unusual because he's there pretty much every Saturday. But yeah, I was, because sometimes he brings his fiance, but sometimes, a lot of times she doesn't come. And so a lot of times he comes by himself. So this was, I think, the first time, and we haven't been out for a while, but I think this was the first time that I'd seen him like bring somebody else.
Yeah.
And I kind of figured, because I was like, oh well, probably they have like an open relationship thing.
Yeah,
because that's pretty common.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I kind of figured that.
Scott said he wasn't going to go out with her anymore because, one, she's married to a woman, and they have a kid.
Oh, okay. She didn't tell me that.
No, that transsexual is a father.
Okay, I gotcha.
And when he brought her home, a big fight happened out in front of the house about where the fuck were you and all this kind of shit. And he was like, and she's like, I'm trying to get away from you. I went out with Sky. I'm trying to get away from you. I'm sick of you. And they're 2 months behind in rent and all that kind of shit. And fucking Scott didn't like that she was fucking yelling at the mother of her child. Yeah, I'm trying to get the fucking pronouns correct. that she's yelling at the mother of her child. And he didn't like how, and he was like, "Oh, okay, so this is going on here. I'm not going out with her anymore."
Well, the thing about it was that as soon as she got there, she seemed like to hone in on me and Tom.
Well, yeah, she didn't want to be with Scott. What are you talking about?
And man, she was just, she was trying to like fucking get all up in the middle of it.
Yeah, she was trying to get up in that.
Like I said, she was trying to like recruit me into witchcraft.
Yeah. Well, she's a bisexual, transsexual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she just kept telling me, just like,
yeah, she said,
you're so hot, man.
Yeah, she was like, I'm gonna fuck your girlfriend. And I said, oh, you gonna fuck my girlfriend? You gonna fuck her? I said, you're gonna get your shit fucking busted up. Although I'm thinking, like, I don't know, maybe Jenny might be up for that. I'm not really sure, but I was like, yeah, okay, man. She was cool though. She was cool. Yeah. I liked her. She was fun.
She's a little weird, but
yeah, well, she was desperate.
Yeah,
she was cool.
Because I was just kind of, well, the thing about it is that I have a lot of, and I think, and I don't really know if like this is what people think, but I think sometimes maybe that people, and I only know this from people that like I didn't know and like I met later and they told me what they thought. But they thought when they first met me.
That's what we're talking about.
I mean, you showed that.
And
earlier.
I'm going to show the other one.
You showed that earlier.
That's the other photo.
Okay. Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, that's her.
So, yeah. So the thing about it was that I kind of feel like maybe some people that don't. Man, look what you did.
Did I fuck it up? Yeah, I fucked it up.
What did you do?
I don't know.
How'd you do that?
I guess it was because it was so light.
What happened?
Hold your hand over it.
Well, yeah, but what the fuck, man? What did you do? You really need to quit.
I broke that
You
shit.
need to quit doing that.
Hold on.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So now I'm in the fucking dark. Yeah, thanks.
Put a light in front of it.
What else is new? He's gonna let me deal with it. Why did you fuck it up like that? Why did you do it? Oh my god. Why? Anyway, even though you can't fucking see me. But what happened? I think that a lot of people thought that I was a snot. You know what I mean? Because I don't talk a lot in the club. But it's because I don't talk a lot because I can't fucking hear anything. I can't fucking hear anything. So some people want to come in and like they want to have these big long social conversations, and I'm like, bitch, I can't hear a fucking word you're saying. And it's like I don't want to be rude and like sit there and be like, what like every 5 seconds. So I usually like I'm just like, look, I'm just here to dance. I can't have big long conversations. I'm not trying to be like snotty or aloof or anything like that. It's just I can't hear you. I can't. How did he do that? I don't understand. Like, what the fuck? Ugh. I've told him a million times. I was like, please don't hold that shit up to the camera because it messes up the focus and it messes up the lighting, and he just keeps doing it anyway. And I don't understand like why. I mean, all the lights are still on. All the lights are still on. My ring light's still on. Everything's still on. I don't know what the fuck he did. I'm just gonna wait till he comes back in. This is driving me crazy because Ian says, I feel your pain, Jenny. I'm deaf as fuck. Yeah, me too. And it's just kind of like, because I kind of feel like it causes a lot of anxiety because people will be like talking to me. They'll have these big elaborate conversations about who knows what. I mean, it could be something like really important. Look what you did.
But hold on. I'm going to fix this shit.
I've been doing that the whole time you've been gone.
It didn't work, huh?
No. What happened?
Okay, I'm going to do it again. Hold on.
Why? How did you do that? I keep telling you, like, please stop moving stuff in front of please stop putting stuff in front of the camera. It's just like it messes everything up.
See if I can get it to fucking read.
It messes everything up.
Sorry, we're towards the end of the show.
And everything's fucking dark.
I can't understand it.
But yeah. But that's the thing. So people have these big like and you know, for all I know,
redo it. Will that read?
Well, that was a boob. So
that was the one that did it. No.
Why don't show boobs?
Okay.
I mean,
that didn't fix it.
You've got me like demonetized like so many times. It's just like without your fucking the shit that you're showing. But yeah, it's like just please stop doing that.
Oh well, just finish it up and then we'll shut.
But what I was saying is like people have these big elaborate conversations. Like they could be like pouring out their heart to me, but I don't really know and I feel really bad because it's like I can't hear a fucking word you're saying, and I don't really want to like stand there and be like what, and it's like because I just feel like an asshole. So I'm just like it's better to just not talk. Yeah. Like don't get any complicated. Right. If you want to talk, let's like go outside or. You know, we'll go get coffee or something like that where I can actually fucking hear what you're saying. Yeah. Not when there's music blaring in the background. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, Jeffy said I can sort of see Jenny. Yeah, this is pissing me off, this darkness.
Yeah. So I broke some shit. I didn't break anything.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously broke it. I have never seen that happen. I didn't break shit. I have never seen that happen. Ian said just smile and wave. Yeah, that's what I do. I'm just like, yeah. Whatever. Hopefully they didn't tell me anything bad, like their fucking mom just died or something like that, and I'm just like, yep, cool. I don't know. I have a paranoia that that's gonna happen because I was like, I have no idea what she said, but I like to like pretend that I can hear people. Zach said, what happened? Yeah, what do you think happened? Like Tom held some shit up to the camera and like fucked up the lighting, and hopefully it doesn't stay like this because I have no idea. I've never seen this happen before ever. I've seen it actually go brighter. And then if I hold my hand up, then like sometimes it'll refocus, but it doesn't seem to be working this time, and I really don't know what happened. Yeah. So, yeah, great.
Yeah, I just fucking end the show anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
it's about time. I don't understand what the hell happened.
You fucked it up, is what happened.
Yeah, I broke it.
Yeah, you fucked it up.
I broke it.
It does kind of fit the mood of the show. Yeah, we're just gonna like around here in the dark. Anyway. Thank you, everybody, for dropping by this evening. Hopefully you had a good time. We'll be back on Friday night doing our regularly scheduled drunken-ass sidetracked show. Yeah. That should be really fun. Yeah. So, yeah, have a good rest of your evening. Have a good day tomorrow. And we will see you guys again on Friday night. Bye.
About you, but I'm hungry.